Happy Friday! Welcome, everybody, to the Sean O'Connell Show. Glad to be with you to send you into what is a stellar weekend because college football is back. Not week 0 back. College football is all the way back. It was great to see so many of you at Rice-Eccles Stadium last night for Utah's home opener against the T-Birds of Southern Utah. We're going to unpack a lot of that game today. We're going to talk about another Big 12 game, or I should say another game featuring a Big 12 team that was played yesterday. Colorado had a North Dakota State Bison squad that was very, very tough to handle. We'll get into some of that. We'll take a look at the games coming up. Aggies are in action. BYU's got their season opener. And, of course, this weekend starts with some nationally relevant top 25 big-time contests. We're going to try to get to all of that on the show today. Bill Riley, the voice of the Utes, was on the call last night. He's already in mid-season form. He'll check in. We'll talk with him on the show today in about half an hour. My friend Lee Sterling, pro handicapper, betting insider, is going to join us to talk about the right plays for the weekend. Alex Markham from Rivals, again, to talk about Utah's opener, and we turn our eyes to Baylor, which is technically not a conference game, but is a conference opponent and is going to be featuring some of the talent that you've got to get accustomed to seeing Utah compete against. Baylor's got some athletes. Baylor's got some big boys. Baylor's got some NFL-bound individuals. They're also fighting for their coach's future and their coach's job. We'll see what they look like this weekend. We'll see what they look like in more detail next weekend. Opening segment of the Sean O'Connell Show is always brought to you by Alvi Armani. Check out alviarmani.com if you're experiencing hair loss of any kind. If you're just nervous about the way that hairline is retreating, you want to get out ahead of it, alviarmani.com. Let them help you out. Tell them that OC sent you. James Peterson is producing today. James, you were also on the board. You were also running things during the broadcast last night. Were you in there in the control room watching this thing on TV, screaming, jumping around? What was your level of excitement and angst over the SUU game?
No, I think it was I was pretty excited about how the Utes looked. I mean, 49-0. I know it's FCS opponent. You're supposed to do that, but 5 touchdowns, 250-plus yards for Cam in the first half, 3 of them to Brant Keithy. I don't know how you couldn't be excited. Now, of course, the reason I get as I say that, the reasons to not be excited are the two significant injuries with Kenan Johnson, and I'm blanking on the
Aliki Vimahi.
Yes, yeah. Vimahi. They both left the game, and Whit made it sound like in the post-game broadcast they were not good. But we'll find out, of course, if they are season-ending. Whit will tell us. If not, we'll just speculate as to how long they might be out. So those are things you come out of that game going, I'm concerned about that. Not completely healthy, but your quarterback's still upright, and he looked fantastic. And your top star pass catchers, in particular Brant Keithy, is still upright, and he looked fantastic. And these injuries are just going to be a test of the depth, right? And we've been saying all team Utah may have ever had, or this is one of the deepest teams Utah's ever had. Well, it's going to be tested with these two guys going down, and if they are, then they should be fine.
We shall see. Something we're going to do every day after, and most of the time it's going to be on Mondays. Something we're going to do every single week on the Sean O'Connell Show is we're going to go through the top, I'm going to say 5 loosely, the top 5 plays of each game. Some games there's going to be 8 plays that really decide everything. Some games there's only going to be 3. In most games, in most high school, college, pro games, you can identify 5 plays that really kind of broke the camel's back one way or another. And we're going to try and identify those, and we're going to talk about those and what they mean in the short term and what they mean in the big picture on the Sean O'Connell Show every time we're coming off a Utah game. So let's do that. Let's start, actually, with that. We're going to go through pros and cons. We're going to go through all of it. I actually just tweeted out, I want you at Real OC Sports, at ESPN 700, at OC Show 801, however you want to get in touch with us, 877-353-0700 on the Dish Pros text line. Give me your number one pro, your number one con. And I think we're all going to have the same cons from last night's game. The injuries that James mentioned and the 5 most important plays of the game. The non-contact injury to Kenan Johnson, totally backside away from the play. I guess he, put his foot in the ground wrong, got twisted trying to follow a receiver. Even the replay wasn't going to show you because Kenan Johnson was on the backside of the play. I was in the stadium back on the football field for the University of Utah in this 2024 season. My hope is I am dead wrong, obviously.
And that's no doubt about it. That's a huge bummer, right?
It's horrible because it's horrible for the number one reason. A guy who in the transfer portal era, I think we get a little bit jaded to like, he came in. We don't know this guy yet. He's not a Ute the way that some of these like Brant Keithy and Cam Rising are Utes. No, he uprooted his life. He came from Georgia Tech. He tried for a restart at the University of Utah. He was receiving praise from the coach and his teammates through spring, through summer workouts, into fall camp, and in the first week, not even on a play that he was involved in. That is just horrible bad luck. There's no other way to attribute it. There's no other thing that you can explain this with. It's just misfortune. And it doesn't make anybody feel better. That's not going to make Kenan Johnson smile. Well, everyone experiences bad luck sometimes. It's awful. It's a terrible scenario for him. And you brought up the point, James, that this is maybe the most talented, maybe deepest Utah football team ever. Whether that's true or not, and I probably lean towards not, but they're up there. They're very, very talented. It is a deep team. What's one of the positions where when we got that first depth chart released, we were like, maybe they're not as deep here? Corner. Corner was that spot, right? That we heard about Cameron Calhoun, the Michigan transfer, who if Cameron Calhoun had committed to the University of Utah out of high school, Cameron Calhoun would have been either the top or the second highest rated recruit, I believe, at any position that Utah had ever gotten. Maybe it was top 3. We would have been doing backflips if this guy was a Lander Barton or Clark Phillips kind of commit. Because it's in the transfer portal, it came in with less fanfare. Because in the transfer portal, you get re-ranked. Coming out of high school, he was very, very highly thought of. Very, very highly regarded. And that's the kind of guy I want to be coached by Sharif Shaw. But we kept hearing about, Cam Calhoun, you got to get him right,
3 wide look here now, 4 wide look on second down and 10 for the 25. Chip Trainum in the ball game is the backfield.
When Kenan Johnson went down. So that's one piece of depth that probably had you feeling good.
And Nephi Sewell out with the ankle.
Kenan Johnson going down, that is the number one most important play of the game. And I hate to say that. I'm not trying to start on a negative note because the overwhelming positives
3 wide look here now, 4 wide.
Important, but that was the number one most important play of the game for the Utah football season. Number 2 most important play of the game, that first touchdown pass for Cam Rising. 600 days away from football, and the man finally gets to feel that feeling again. And we all do the same thing. Our eyes follow the ball, right? I watched. He hits the route out in the open field. We all know it's going to be a touchdown. No one's catching Dijon. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fun. And then I looked back to see what Cam Rising was doing. And he was celebrating in a way that, when he got to the 20th touchdown, even of a championship season, yeah, he's always happy, but it just had a different look to it.
It was more of a pure joy, you're saying?
Just like, that's the feeling that I've been missing for 600 days, you know?
And I'm curious, what did Brant look like to you with that? Because I had it on the screen, but my mind's split, my attention split, so I'm not able to see everything when I'm producing these games. So I missed Brant's first initial reaction. What did he look to be the same to you on his first touchdown, his first catch?
He's been away even longer.
Yeah.
So yes, we all have this in our life, the combined feeling of like joy and relief is almost better than just being happy. When you're happy, but you're also relieved, there's something that you were worried about, there's something that's been bothering you, and then that seal gets broken. You're happy because a touchdown by itself is reason to be happy. On top of that, you're feeling this relief of, that long wait is over. All that doubt is behind me for now. Like, oh. And we saw that a bunch of times. We saw it 5 times for Cam Rising. It was an offensive explosion, which, again, you expect against a team like Southern Utah. Even Southern Utah's head coach, who joined me on the show earlier in the week, that's what he expected. How do you match up with these teams? Well, Cam Rising getting that first touchdown pass, getting it early, that was, I will say, the second most important play of the game. The third most important play of the game was actually Brant Keithy's third touchdown, because the first 2, those touchdowns belonged to Andy Ludwig. Those touchdowns were scheme touchdowns. Those touchdowns were SUU's just not good enough, not fast enough, not smart, focused, whatever you want to say. They're just not in your league. They didn't scout it the right way.
Might as well have been practice touchdowns.
They
right?
were like Cam hits Brant in the north end zone because he's wide open behind the defense. Caleb Lohner was also wide open, running parallel to Brant Keithy, further out, harder throw. Cam made the right choice, got the guy in his field of vision, right, and also got his guy the touchdown that he needed, that he'd been waiting for so long. But that was a play where Cam Rising, it was a fielder's choice. He could have had any assortment of touchdown passes on that play. It was a breakdown of the defense. And I would have liked to have seen Caleb Lohner get that one. Sure, but he got one eventually.
He did get one, and it was an incredible catch by him.
It was an amazing catch. Amazing!
And Scott Mitchell did a good job on the broadcast pointing out that Landon King was probably the guy to go to. He was actually the one that was wide open, but he's like, Isaac that was a good throw for a contested throw. That was a good one, and then a great, Bill described it as a basketball box out by Caleb Lohner. And awesome that we got a Caleb Lohner touchdown too, because I think fans were looking for, obviously, Cam to look awesome, Brant to look awesome, the offense to look good. But I think also a little farther down the list, but also on the checklist was, I want to see Caleb Lohner do something. So that was cool to see him do that.
That was the little bonus thing that you were looking for in this game. Like, ooh,
yeah.
Because
I'd be fine without it, but if it happened, that'd be awesome.
Like, you need you want this team, good teams win, great teams cover. You wanted them to at least hit that 38.5 or whatever the spread was. And they did, but then you're like, also, wouldn't it be cool if we saw what Caleb Lohner's capable of? And back to the point of the Brant Keithy's most important touchdown was not the first or the second. It was that third touchdown pass where he catches the ball at the 6. And there are 4 SUU defenders between him and the goal line. 4. And like something from a mismatch in Little League football, there was always that kid who had the mustache at 12 and he had already hit puberty, and you were just like, what?
Or what I was talking about, the freshman running back who looks like he's actually a varsity player, just mauling people, not juking anyone, just going and running straight over people. Yeah, it was just like that.
If you want some Utah football erotica, okay, Brant Keithy just big brothering 4 SUU defenders to get into the end zone. Even if you take out the context of Brant Keithy having been 700+ days away from football, if you just watch that and it was like a week 4 thing, That's on the highlight reel. But the fact that he had already had 2 touchdowns that were wide open, that were just pitch and catch, and then it was like, all right, well, what happens when there's an obstacle in your way? What happens when it's yards after contact? And it was just like he wasn't going down. It was ridiculous. Those guys didn't even play it poorly. It was like a swarm tackle attempt, and Brant Keithy's just like, nah, go away. And he gets into the end zone. So that was one of the 5 most important plays of the game, because any questions that we have about the ability of those guys to overcome the durability of oft-injured players, of previously injured players, that starts to chip away at those doubts. That starts to chip away at like, oh, I need to be worried about Brant Keithy's ability to absorb contact, to run through contact. And look, he's going to face more resistance against Baylor than he did against Southern Utah, and Utah State than he did against
no doubt
Southern Utah. But like, that's what these games are for. It's like, all right, well, we know that Brant Keithy can run through 4 SUU guys. I'm going to extrapolate that's equivalent to like at least 2.5 Baylor Bears. And if he can break tackles and get through, great, we're good.
So the FCS conversion rate is 2.5 to 1 Big 12 defender.
Not always, not every FCS.
Maybe not
right?
the Bison, North Dakota State.
North Dakota State.
Maybe it's more to 1 or maybe a half a guy with those guys.
It's like a 1.25.
Certainly against
Bison
Colorado, man.
So we'll get to that. The 5 most important plays of this game for me, and please send me yours, 877-353-0700. The Kenan Johnson non-contact injury, Cam Rising's first touchdown pass, breaking that seal, Keithy's 3rd touchdown, where it was just like, yep, that dude physically is different than you.
I'm better than you.
The one, and again, maybe too much of a tight end theme here. First quarter, all right, 3rd and short, 14 personnel comes in. 1 running back, 4 tight ends, 5 offensive linemen, Cam Rising. 14 personnel comes in. Dallin Bentley on the field. Carson Ryan on the field. Brant Keithy on the field. They're going to shove this thing down your throat. And I think it was Miki Sugaturaga. 14 personnel. That, to me, was one of the 5 most important plays of the game, because even in a scenario where you don't have to bust out the whole playbook and you're not showing all of your cards, that was Andy Ludwig being like, okay, here's what we need from our offense, 3.5 yards. Watch what I can do. 14 personnel. And now you on the defense, when that group comes out, you have to be like, okay, this is jumbo. They're going to just put their hands in the dirt, and they're going to push a pile, and this is a rugby scrum. They brought in 250-pound bodies instead of wide receivers to spread us out. Here we go. But you also know, like, every one of these guys can catch the football. Cam Rising
They're all threats. None of them are just out there to block.
Cam Rising wants to get the ball into the hands of these guys. And later in the game, I think it was actually Brant's 2nd touchdown, you had a similar scenario, right? Where it's just like, okay, yep, tight formation, everyone's down near the line of scrimmage, bunch of tight ends here, there, who do I account for? And then Keithy just leaks. So that play right there was just a little wink and a nod to what this offense is going to look like with that personnel group.
Because we saw Washington, for example, last year dominate defenses through the air with 3 outstanding receivers. And we've seen that, throughout the history of football, particularly at the college level. I don't know that we've seen a 14 personnel dominate games, right? Or a 13 personnel dominate games necessarily, like we saw, the Washington receivers, Adunze and company do. Is that something you think Utah can do? I mean, if there's a group that can do it, it seems like it would be this group of tight end pass catchers, right?
Well, the crazy thing for me, James, one of the crazy things, I should say, about this game is Cam Rising and Isaac Wilson completed passes to 9 different Utes. Okay? Brant Keithy plays tight end. Caleb Lohner plays tight end. He had 1 catch. Miki Sugataraga plays tight end. He had 1 catch. Carson Ryan can catch the football and is an absolute monster once he gets the ball into his hands. Dallin Bentley, everyone's been singing his praises all camp long. They didn't even get targeted in this game. So you have not seen the full extent of what this tight end group is going to be in the offense by any stretch of the imagination. We are so far from that group realizing its full potential, but that play where you needed short yardage and they just sent out like, oh man, okay, I got like, it doesn't even matter which ones, just this is Southern Utah. Just you guys go out there and scare them.
I need 4 tight ends.
Just
get out there.
Any 4 tight ends, go run out there. You're bigger, you're stronger.
And Brant goes, well, Coach, I'm kind of an offensive weapon, so I'm not – do I count?
Can I be offensive weapon today? You're a tight end,
okay, three tight ends, 1 offensive weapon. Get out there, Brant.
And, like, as a defense, you don't know what to do. And, by the way, when Baylor sees that, they're also going to not know what to do because they're going to be like, okay, well, we saw them last time. We saw them just, like, wedge this thing and run power. And also – we saw them fake like they were going to do some play action, and then Keithy came leaking out, and we had a safety assigned to him and linebackers assigned to the other 2 guys, and those were mismatches, and they chose to go with the open guy, but those 2 would have been a problem also. So that 14 personnel, the first glimpse of it, and there was plenty of it in the game, but the first glimpse of it, and by the way, the fans at Rice Eccles, they knew.
Yeah.
Because there was a little, oh.
Let's go.
And that was one of the most important plays of the game for me because, again, it's just a tease. It's that summer blockbuster teaser trailer that you get, and it doesn't really show you any plot points. It's just like, here's the character, here's a funny one-liner, there's a lot of scenics, there's like the big epic music building. That's what that was.
And you're like, oh, I want to see that movie.
Like, I really can't wait to see that movie. But you're like, actually, I still have no idea what that movie's about. I just know that the X-Men are in it.
Well, so I think because Brant had 3 touchdowns, it felt like the tight ends were a much more dominant part of the passing game. But you just outlined they weren't targeted all that much.
That's right.
They didn't get that many catches. So anyway, you're right. We have not seen the full anywhere close to the full extent of this. What's the 5th most important?
I'm going to cheat a little on the 5th most important play of the game, and you'll see me cheat a lot on the 5th most important play of the game.
You're screaming about steroids not being okay, and now you're cheating on the plays of the game.
The 5th most important play of the game was actually a compilation of every time that Cam Rising scrambled, got hit, and got back up. First play of the game,
a good call.
He got hit. And he got back up. Now, I didn't have a lot of doubt about whether or not Cam was going to be able to take contact. I mean, we've asked him about it a couple of times on the air. I asked him about it off the air at Big 12 Media Days. I talked to him a little bit. Like, the man, that is a Tiger who knows that his stripes are not going to change.
Yep. And listeners have now seen what he looks like as he's saying it, too. The guy means it. When he's not just saying it to sound good or to quell any concerns. He means it that, hey, I'm gonna still try for extra yards and I'm gonna be confident about it. I'm not gonna be thinking about maybe I'll tear my knee up again.
He was sticking his face into the defenders in an SUU game in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And the coaching staff didn't want that. They don't like that. Most fans, I mean, I'm standing down there on the sideline, and every single time, people are like, eyebrows up, like, what is he doing? Well, he's being Cam Rising.
He's being Cam.
And here's the thing. We've all met these people in life. You're married to one of these people, most likely. You take all of the good, which is massively overwhelming, and then the things that you wish they would just be a little bit smarter about. You take that too.
You got to take it.
Because it's all part of the same package. And if you take that thing out, that you take that competitor out, you take that, I'm not going to slide, I'm going to dive. If you take that out of Cam Rising, he's not the Cam Rising that gave you 2 Pac-12 championships.
Well, and Scott Mitchell talks about the importance of being aggressive on offense every broadcast. And he sings Andy Ludwig and Cam Rising and Kyle Whittingham's praises every time they do something aggressive. When you say, hey, could you just tone down trying to challenge people? It takes away that aggressiveness that makes an offense great. That's what you're taking away if you're saying, hey, Cam, could you just not trash talk next time you run? Like, no. Let him do his thing because it's going to pay off for you more times than not.
Now, I'm all for putting a bit of a governor on that and saying, hey, like, Cam, let's have this discussion. This is SUU. You don't need to sacrifice anything here. Like, let's be careful. I'm all for that discussion. That's what coaches are supposed to do.
But you can't tell him he can't do it at all in any game, right? Like, you got to let him. You got to let him have his chance.
You have to let him be himself,
and then tell him, hey, let's make that the only time today, right?
And let me tell you something. Like, it happened 8 times, and it's like, okay, well, I don't want to see that a whole lot, Cam. Not in this game. We don't need you to do that in this game. We're already up 3 scores. Please stop doing that in this particular game. And you know what? I guess it only happened 4 times. But here we are. We're talking about it. Everything's fine. Cam's fine. And by the way, sometimes when you hook slide, you do that little slide, especially if you're wearing a knee brace, which Cam decided he elected to go with the knee brace, it gets all stuck in the turf. It has like a weird hitch to it. It's not easy. So those were, again, cheating. But that Cam Rising getting up from contact.
5-yard penalty for the cheating. That's it.
5-yard
do
flag.
A 5-yard flag.
It's fine.
That's it. It's worth it to you.
I'll take it. It's like, to me, that's like you accept the delay of game to position yourself better for the field goal. That's what I'm doing here.
And this is also, hey, like, there's so many good things about UOC, but every once in a while you're gonna get a 5-yard flag.
That's fine.
It's okay.
It's all right. Like, Garrett Bowles was at the game last night. When you're dealing with Garrett Bowles, this like absolute savage monster of an offensive tackle, you knew that he was going to get a penalty or 2 in a game. That's just the nature of the beast. It was a worthy trade-off, and it still is for the Broncos. It was worthy for the Utes. That's what it's like if you're listening to this show, okay?
Or if you're producing it, either way.
Hopefully the overwhelming outcome is a good one, but sometimes you're going to have some penalties. Cam Rising getting up off that turf after contact, you actually needed and wanted to see that. I could have gone without seeing it in the very first play of the game, but you needed and wanted to see that against Southern Utah. He's back, all the way back. By the way, 15-yard flag on some of the did you see the He Is Risen shirts with Cam Rising's face on them?
Yes.
Don't do that to Cam.
Man.
Don't do that to Cam. That is not Cam doing that to himself, okay? That is very obviously a biblical religious reference that is intended to be blasphemous. That is a 15-yard penalty. Don't put Cam's Rising face on a shirt with a phrase that is typically associated with Jesus.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Don't do that.
It doesn't matter that his name's
penalty.
Rising.
Don't do it.
Also, I mean, I know that you got to know that part of these fans thinking was it's going to piss off BYU fans. So I'm sure.
Yes,
I'm sure that they got a kick out of that. Okay. I'm sure they got lots of comments.
I'm all for aggravating the BYU fan, but let's not do it.
Let's not do that
religiously. Okay. Those are my 5 most important plays of the game. Tweet yours at me at RealOC Sports. 877-353-0700 on the Dish Pros text line. The voice of the Utes, Bill Riley, joins me next to talk about first one in the books. 1-0, baby, your Utes on ESPN 700.
Malapei in the ball game for the first time here on 1st down and 10. They throw that flanker screen to London again. London wrapped up. Now he runs out of a tackle. He gets into Utah territory before he's run out of bounds at the Utah 46-yard line. Latu was there, a bunch of guys that were there. That's now 15 catches for Drake London. 15 catches for 158 yards.
Well, and really that's about as good as Utah's played this bubble screen.
Slovis throws it outside, and it goes incomplete. Clark Phillips tried to jump that route, or it was caught. It was caught. It was caught for about a 3 or 4 yard gain. Catch number 16. Phillips almost came up with it, though, and that would have been a good pick. 1st and 10 from the Utah 40-yard line. It'll be a pass just about every time here from Keaton Slovis. Here he goes, looking down the field, stepping away from pressure, hit as he throws down the middle of the field. It's caught at the Utah 3-yard line by Gary Bryant. He was all by himself in the middle of the field. Latu tackled him, but 1st and goal coming up. Utah was too slow getting to Slovis, and that time he made him pay.
Yeah, and I mean, you just can't have that much time to throw the ball. No one can cover that.
Handoff, goal line, Malapei stopped at about the 2-yard line. As the clock comes up on 10:15 to play, USC will go with tempo on the goal line now. 2nd down and goal from the 2. Slovis again looking, again handing. Malapei toward the goal line, into the end zone, touchdown. He scored a year ago against Utah. Malapei scores a 2-yard touchdown run there to get USC its first touchdown since early in this game with 10:04 to play.
Yeah, and really, that's a little too fast. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's just a little too fast. Or you gotta keep things more in front of you if you're Utah.
He did a pretty good job of it, but when you give up that big play down to the 3-yard line, that's the one that's going to really bite you in the backside. 9 plays, 85 yards, only 2:40 went off the game clock. They're going to go for 2 here because they pretty much have to go for 2 here. 3 touchdowns and 3 2-point conversions aren't going to be enough here for USC. Malapei in the gun with the Slovis here on the 2-point conversion. Keaton Slovis brings a man in motion. That's Bryant. Surveys the field, looks, fires to the end zone. Is it caught? It is. Taj Washington came up with it. 2-point try successful with 10:04 to play. It's Utah 35, USC 18. USC looks like they're bringing out the onside kick. They are. And Utah's got the hands team out right now. Parker Lewis has it teed up at his own 35. Utah with a hands team up right now. Lewis is going to hit it to his right-hand side, it appears. He hits that onside kick. It goes trickling out and out of bounds on the far sideline. That'll be a flag against USC, and Utah will get the ball on the USC side of midfield. That was a heady play by Utah. Zamiah Vaughn, and I think it was Connor O'Toole or maybe Brant Keithy over there that let the ball just go out of bounds.
Kicking team. This 5-yard penalty will be added to the end of the play. First down.
You're right, though, Scott. They were running out of opportunities. That was something they had to do. 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions still isn't enough for them here, so they had to try. So Utah will get it 1st and 10 at the USC. I believe they're going to put it at about the USC 45-yard line. Just have to figure out where that ball went out of bounds. It went out of bounds right at midfield. So 1st and 10 Utah at the SC 45. Tavion Thomas, the back of the backfield right now for the University of Utah. 3 tight end look for the Utes. Devon Vele, the lone wide receiver in the formation. Rising, changing the play on 1st and 10. He'll turn and give it. Tavion Thomas. Tavion off that left side. Pushes the pile forward for about a 2-yard gain to the 43-yard line.
And this speaks to Coach Whittingham gaining that trust of Tavion Thomas.
Yep.
I mean, this is winning the football game right here, and you're going to put him in a game and have the confidence he's going to hold on to football because, turnovers are clearly the enemy at this point.
10 carries, 82 yards now in that touchdown run for Tavion Thomas. Clock running. 9:34, 9:33 to play. Utah still in the huddle. They'll break it with 13 on the
A little game day post-mortem. Thursday night game means we get to talk about the Utes and their big win over Southern Utah on a Friday. Lucky enough, I should say, to be joined by Bill Riley, the voice of the Utes, the man who used to sit in this very chair in this very time slot. As always, Bill Riley and the conversation brought to you by Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. Take advantage of their offer, $2,500 off 10 windows or more during the football season. Bill Riley, welcome to the show. How are you? Don't do this to me, James. Don't do this to me, James. Anyway, Bill's going to join us here. Utah, in their victory over Southern Utah, moves to 1-0 on the season. Scott Mitchell said it on the post game last night. Hey, if you want to win them all, you got to win the first one. In looking at the 5 most important plays, that's what we're going to do, and the number one pro, the number one con. We'll go with pros and cons on these games as well. The pros here are easy to find. I'm going to be a little bit nitpicky when we talk about this game because otherwise you're just clapping and patting yourself on the back and feeling too happy about things, and that's not reasonable behavior after a 49-0 victory over Southern Utah. Congrats to the T-Birds for putting up some fight. I mean, their run game actually, I think, showed out better than I expected them to, which is weird to say because they ended up finishing with 79 yards on the ground. But you got to remember that in college football, sack yardage is taken away from your rushing total. And if you subtract the sack yardage, this team actually has slightly over 100 yards on the ground. I don't want to see Utah football giving up 100 yards on the ground to Southern Utah. Targi Lamson for Southern Utah, senior running back, 5'9", 200 pounds, Spanish Fort kid. He averaged 7 yards a carry. And again, I know that I am being nitpicky here, but that's what you're supposed to do when you are the projected Big 12 champion, heavily favored, 40-point favorite over SUU. You got to tell me, I feel good about an FCS running back going for 7 yards a carry. That's something that you got to clean up a little bit. The offensive line for the University of Utah. Again, numbers don't tell every story. The offensive line for the University of Utah, I thought, created a beautifully clean pocket for 90% of this game. Cam Rising was well taken care of after that first play of the game, especially. I would have liked to seen more push on some of the run plays. And I know there was like an even distribution of running opportunities. Dijon Stanley got 6 carries. Mekhi Bernard got 5 carries. Mike Mitchell got 6 carries. Isaac Wilson ended up scrambling. He got 5 carries. Hunter Andrews, don't put the ball on the carpet, son. 2 carries for 17 yards. Jalen Glover got 4. Charlie Vincent got 4. Brandon Rose with a design run. Look, everyone got a little taste. And the second half, you're dealing with backup defenders. You're dealing with rotation on your offensive line, although the starting O-line, I think, stayed in this game longer than any other position group for the University of Utah. I would like to see more push from the offensive line. Now, I'm not panicking about this. I'm not even actually worrying about this because as difficult as it is to really like stay 100% focused, 100% dialed in on an FCS team and treat them like you would a Big 12 opponent, the offensive line did a really decent job of exactly that. It was a productive run game. It just wasn't like, oh my gosh, look how dominant these road graders are, which I guess I'm spoiled and want. All right, now we have Bill Riley, the voice of the Utes, brought to you by Advanced Window Products. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Sean. Good to see you. I guess good to hear you.
Yeah, we get to hear each other today. We got to see each other yesterday. You were already in mid-season form on the call, which I will say apparently was not the case on the television broadcast. If I'm reading some of the feedback I'm getting from folks properly, that's unfortunate. But let's start with the big picture, the high-level stuff. 49-0 for Utah. You can't ask for a lot more than beating up on the teams that are in front of you. We know that this was kind of an expected outcome, but what were you most encouraged by seeing?
Well, the offense ran smoothly. That part was great. Cam missed a couple of throws. Probably could add another touchdown when he went after Micah Pittman, but it's hard to argue with 66% completions, 254 yards, 5 touchdowns, no turnovers in the first time in 606 days that you played real football. So easy to nitpick, but I thought the offense looked really good. Great to see Brant Keithy back out there as well. But to me, the revelation of the night last night was Deshaun Stanley. We got to see him briefly last year. I think they call him Duty is his nickname, Duty Stanley. Saw him on a couple of kick returns last year, a couple of plays late in the season. That kid's dynamic. I know the competition was lesser last night, but the athleticism was on full display. And to be very fair, there was little to no talk really through fall camp about him. A lot of Mike Mitchell talk, a lot of talk about tight ends, new wide receivers. I kind of thought he was the star of the night last night, or at least the breakout star of the night last night.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with you. The only, to echo your sentiment, the only real mention, there wasn't people gushing about it necessarily, but Kyle Whittingham did say when asked about the running back picture that he had separated them into a tier system, right? Here's the top tier of backs. Here's the other tier of backs. And there was an outlier. And he's like, and then there's, Dijon we're going to have a package where he's got some unique stuff. And that's what we saw. And we see that when you have that talent, you kind of become undeniable for your offensive coordinator, and they find ways to get the ball in your hand. So, yeah, a breakout game of sorts for Deshaun Stanley, and hopefully we can see some more of that. 3 touchdowns for Brant Keithy, 5 touchdowns for Cam Rising. These are both guys rising up the record books at the University of Utah. Cam Rising, moved into 4th all-time in passing touchdowns in one game here in the 2024 season. But the duo, right? 2 guys that have been through a lot together, that have matched up and connected on important plays and important touchdown passes in this career, the shared career of theirs. To see them do it in the same night, get back on the field in the same night, and both excel on the same night. I mean, I don't know how they feel about it, but I think for the fans and for a lot of us in the building, it was like, okay, this feels like all's right in the Utah world.
No, I mean, you're right about that. And, to be fair, we didn't even see Landon King, who I thought could be a breakout guy, get a catch last night. We didn't see Damian Alford, but for a couple of snaps last night. There were a lot of guys who I think could still be real impact playmakers on this team that didn't even get touches last night. So there was a lot to like about the offense. I think they're probably going to have to be a little more physical up front and run the football at some point in time. But I don't think there's any doubt right now that they're going to throw the ball quite a bit this year. They showcased it early. We talked to Witt about it after the game last night. You put the ball in your best players' hands, and I think their best players right now are in the throw game, as Kyle likes to say. And so that doesn't surprise me, but I would like to see, especially against a 1AA team, I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more push up front, maybe to establish that line of scrimmage. But, that's nitpicking in a 49-0 first game of the season.
Maybe overshadowed because of what we saw from Cam and from Brant and from Deshaun Stanley. On the defensive side, it's always by committee on the defense. Van Fillinger had a really good game, and that's a guy who's played hurt. He's battled. He's had his ups and his downs, and I thought last night we saw a glimpse of that's the Van that everyone hoped they would see for 3 years or 4 years when he came out of Corner Canyon High School.
Well, it's not just the 2 sacks that he got. He was really good in the run game. Scott pointed it out a couple of times on the broadcast. He was really good at redirecting traffic in the right direction last night. I thought Van was terrific. And to be fair, I thought Utah, they had 5 sacks last night. They probably could have had 8 or 9 sacks. There were a couple of times where guys like Tanavasa and Fano, they got upfield so quickly they almost overran the quarterback. And maybe some of that's because when you get in fall camp, you don't have that scrimmage where you can hit a quarterback. And so he kind of eluded him just a little bit. But I really thought the front was really good last night. And they've got so many bodies. And, even with the loss, potentially the loss, I mean, Kyle hinted at a couple of injuries, and we know that Biamahi and Kenan Johnson are 2 of those guys. He hesitated to say season ending. He said they have to see. We'll probably find that out on Monday or Tuesday. But I really thought the defense showed its depth. I liked a lot of what I saw last night. I thought Smith Snowden quietly was really good, came up and made some nice tackles in the run game last night. And I thought, Elijah Davis, who's been in the program for a few years. Kenan Johnson goes down. He steps in, and as he told us on the post-game show, he just made a football play on that interception. He wasn't supposed to be in that area. He just made an athletic read on the play and made that interception. So we'll hold our breath, cross our fingers on those couple of injuries, see what Kyle says next week. But I think we know that defense is pretty darn deep.
So going back to the point you made previously, if your best players right now are in that passing game, and finding a way to get that ball into their hands makes sense. I have been pushing back to people all preseason long on the idea like, hey, this is the year where it flips. This is the year where this Utah team catches up to modern college football, which is a bit of a misnomer, but passes more than they run. And last night you ended up running the ball more than you passed it, but in the first half, which is a greater indication of what the actual offense you're going to run with your starters in, there were more passes than there were runs. Is that a trend that you think we will see continue against Baylor and Utah State and Oklahoma State?
I do, just because, again, I think you play to the strength of your team. As much as Kyle has always – you play to what your strength – for years, the strength of this team has been physicality, great running backs, and that may still be the case. Maybe a couple of these guys emerge. But there's no denying what you have in Cam Rising, in Brant Keithy, in Dorian Singer, Caleb Lohner. I mean, there's just so much. I don't think they've ever had, Sean, this kind of talent in the wide receiver and the tight end, and really just overall playmakers. I mean, DeJohn Stanley's not in either one of those rooms. He's a running back, but he's a weapon. Scott was calling him a weapon last night. You play to your strengths. They can still run the football. They still will with Bernard. I like some of the touches I saw from Mike Mitchell, too. I think Mike Mitchell's got an opportunity to be a really good physical back. But, I said it last year thinking Cam Rising was going to be healthy and play based on some of the weaponry they had last year. I thought they'd pass it a little bit more. It didn't turn out to be the case because of the injuries and things like that. But I really do. Now, is it 65-35? Is it 60-40, 51-40? I don't know what the percentage is going to be yet because it's a first game. But I've been on that bandwagon you've been pushing back against a little bit. I think they're going to throw it a little bit more this year.
Bill Riley, voice of the Utes, is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. The conversation with Riles is always brought to you by Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. So defensively, there's a couple guys this year we expect to be big-time stars. And Lander Barton's name is probably first and foremost on that list. Karene Reed, I'm sure you saw this, but Pro Football Focus had them as number 3 and number 6, respectively, in the NFL draft prospects at the linebacker position. So it's an unbelievable duo. Relatively quiet night from those guys on a Thursday. Any issue with that? Any concern there?
Not really, because to be fair, outside of a couple of runs, they didn't get to the second level. I mean, Lander Barton and Karene Reed didn't get an opportunity to make many tackles because Keanu Tanavasa and Junior Tafuna and Van Fillinger and those guys were getting there to the line of scrimmage. So, no, I mean, we have enough proof with these guys. Lander Barton was on his way to being an all-conference linebacker last year. Karene Reed's played at that level for a couple of years. No, I don't have any concern about that after game one. I think it was just a matter of they didn't, and to be very fair, I'm not sure they could have been any more vanilla offensively last night. Quarterbacks didn't take very many chances. They didn't challenge the second and third levels very much. So I think it was an lack of opportunities last night for those two guys.
We saw it early. 14 personnel came trotting out on a third and short, and I'm just looking at it and saying, okay, well, what are they going to do out of this package? And we saw a couple different things out of that. And again, we didn't even see a ball thrown Carson Ryan's way, and we didn't see Dallin Bentley, and we didn't see Landon King. The embarrassment of riches in the tight end room, and the fact that they're willing to deploy 4 of them at once, and maybe we'll see 5 of them at once, and maybe there'll be a wildcat situation where Brant Keithy's the QB, and we see 6 of them on the field at once. The possibilities feel endless with the tight ends, Bill. How much is that going to be part of this offense?
Well, here's what I will say to anybody out there listening, searching for love in their lives, because I love love. Find somebody in your life who loves you as much as Andy Ludwig loves tight ends, and you will have a happy life. Because I'm not sure there's anybody in the country that loves drawing up plays and personnel packages with his tight ends more than Andy Ludwig. All those guys, Dallin Bentley included, are going to play a role. Heck, Mickey Sugataranga, who we think of as just kind of an inline blocker and an H-back, he caught a pass last night. Find yourself somebody who loves you as much as Andy loves tight ends, and you'll have a very happy life.
All right, before I let you go, it's a way too early look, and we're going to talk about them next week, but Baylor is a non-conference opponent that's also a Big 12 opponent. It'll go down as a non-conference game. So the talent level jumps, but this is not a favorite in the Big 12 conference. This is a team that is reeling to some extent. You back an animal into a corner, it can get more dangerous. In the early assessment, what are you looking for in that Baylor versus Utah matchup next week?
It's going to be interesting. They've upgraded themselves at quarterback. They brought in a guy that's a dual threat, but a dual threat who can actually throw it a little bit. His name's DeQuan Finn. He was really good at Toledo in the MAC. So they've brought him in. Some of the other personnel's pretty similar. Keytron Jackson, Hal Presley, those are some wide receivers. They were there a year ago. Montre Baldwin. They didn't wow you a year ago, but to be very honest, a year ago, their quarterback play was pretty suboptimal in that Utah game. It's a big year for Dave Aranda because I think they've kind of put him, if you look at some of the hot seat rankings around the country, he's been a guy that's been squarely on it because he had such a great first year, 12-1. They've kind of slid backwards. They open up with Tarleton State tomorrow, Sean. So
powerhouse Tarleton State.
Powerhouse Tarleton State. I think they're in the same league Southern Utah's in.
That's right. They're in the United Athletic Conference. Yes.
Yes, they're in that league. It's at McLean Stadium. It's a 6:00 kickoff. Remember last year they struggled. I can't remember. It was like Texas State or somebody that beat them in a non-conference. If they come out, play a clean game, and look, then you're feeling like maybe they're in the right direction. If they struggle tomorrow, I don't know if that bodes well coming to Rice-Eccles Stadium, but it's going to be interesting. Like I said, they've made some I think they've got 22 transfers. That's a lot of transfers, 22 transfers that have come in the program. So I'm going to give a little look at that game and see what they look like. But I'm really curious at the quarterback spot because you can make a lot of changes in a lot of places, but if you're just suboptimal at quarterback, especially at the Power 4 level, you've got no chance, and you've got no chance on the road in a place like Rice-Eccles Stadium. So I'm going to take a look at DeQuan Finn tomorrow night and see how he's plays. He's a fifth-year senior. Like I said, had a really good run at Toledo in the MAC, and we'll see what happens.
Bonus points, Bill, if you know the mascot of the Tarleton State football team.
Tarleton State, they played Utah in basketball, I think. Are they like the Broncos?
They're the Texans, the Tarleton State Texans in Stevensville, Texas.
Which I think is a suburb of Fort Worth. I think they're in I think it's in the Dallas Metroplex.
You learn something new every day. The purple and white Texans of Tarleton State. That's who Baylor's got to open things up. That'll give them a good litmus test before they take on this Utah front. That'll be great.
They've got a tough non-conference now. I mean, Tarleton not so much, but they've got Utah, and then they've got Air Force. And we all know Air Force from back in the Mountain West days is no easy game to get prepared for. So, by the way, nobody has a better affinity for teams that wear purple and white than you do, right?
That's right. Yes. I actually I was laughing down on the sideline with one of the Utah staffers last night over the fact that, Southern Utah, Weber State, University of Utah. I also have a degree now from Brigham Young University. Basically, the Aggies are the only team that I have absolutely no love for in the state of Utah. So,
what degree did you get from BYU?
I got my MBA from the Marriott School of Business.
Nice. Congratulations. I didn't realize you. I mean, I knew you were a well-read and learned man, but I didn't realize you had all this paperwork to go with it.
Well, I just bullied some BYU nerds into doing the homework for me. That's how I got it.
But by the way, you're in the perfect business. This is the one business where you don't need – some people don't even have degrees. You've got 3 of them.
I know. And I'm not pretending I'm smart for getting that. It's just like I apparently like to waste my money on pieces of paper, but here we are.
But by the way, just one other thought. How cool was the Alex Smith thing last night? It was. I went back and watched the video afterwards because I was in the middle of doing halftime and stuff like that, but how cool was that to have Alex back? And I had a chance to sit down with him on the pregame show and then on Thursday or on Wednesday. But to have him and his family and have that name go on the facade right below the 22, I thought it was a really cool way to open the season last night.
I agree wholeheartedly. I loved it. And my favorite thing about it is, when you asked Alex about it, I know he told you this as well, but he's a pretty stoic guy, right? Like he's pretty level-headed and even-keeled, and he was when he was at Utah, and we observed that through his NFL career. He got teary-eyed, it brought out the emotion. That is a man who has been through absolute hell physically, mentally, emotionally with that injury situation, and then he looked up and saw his name on the side of the stadium, and he was like, wow, that got him. And I thought that was really, really cool. He gave so much to this university. And to see the fans appreciate it and the program, the athletic department appreciate him in that way, I thought was really cool.
I did too. And, he said the pregame show, and he told me on Wednesday, I don't feel like I deserve this. And, you just like, come on, Alex.
If you don't, then nobody does.
I'm like, you were a Heisman Trophy finalist and a number 1 pick of the draft, and you put Utah football on the national map. You deserve it. And I just love – I said this to the guys yesterday, and you remember because you were a teammate of his for a minute. He's exactly the same guy today. And I say this about Weddle too. Weddle is exactly the same. At 20 years older, I get it. But from a personality he's the same person. He's the same genuine human being that he was when he was on campus at Utah. Weddle's the same way.
Yep, absolutely. That's all you can hope for. Bill, great call last night.
By the way, big thank you to our friends at Advanced Window Products. Just a real quick shout out to Nate and Jake and the crew. I didn't need new windows in my house, but I needed to make those windows look really good. So I got some plantation shutters and blinds. And if you're getting the windows, or maybe you have windows, but you want that, they make the house inside and outside look great. So, of course, they do the great windows and the door stuff too. But if you want those things to really make your windows look great once they're in, the plantation shutters, the blinds, they're all fantastic. And Advanced Windows could do those for you as well.
801-850-9100. Give Advanced Window Products a call. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Sean.
All right. A quick look at a couple of the other games that happened last night, including those Colorado Buffaloes. Sean O'Connell Show continues on a Friday on ESPN 700.
First and 10 from the ASU 23-yard line, rising under center. 4-man down front for ASU. Play action again for Cam. Throwing toward the end zone behind the man. Is it caught? Is it incomplete? What's the call? It's caught! Oh, they'll say incomplete. Incomplete. They try to get that ball into Devon Vele at about the 3-yard line. They'll say it hit the ground. Incomplete. Boy, he squeezed this in there, and, yeah, that ball hit the ground.
Yeah. These plays are making me a little bit nervous with Cam because this first down, and that's a tight window right there.
There's got to be an easier pass, right?
Yeah,
on first
just
down.
a lot easier than that.
But the aggressiveness, I know you like.
I do, but my heart stops when he throws it like that sometimes.
Here we go, 1st and 10. Make it 2nd and 10 for the 23 of Arizona State. The ball's on the turf. Cam turns, and he's going to keep it himself out on the edge. Cam rising, gets to the 20. Cam to the 15 and out of bounds at about the 13, very close to first down yardage. That ball went on the turf. It bounced right back up to him, and he just turned and ran toward the sideline, and now a flag flies. 15 more against ASU. It's an unsportsmanlike against the Sun Devils. So move it inside the 10, half the distance of the goal line. And they'll move it where? To the 7-yard line. 1st and goal at the 7-yard line here for Utah with 12-12 to play in the ball game.
Yeah, ASU is one of the offensive MVPs for Utah. Their defense has given given 2 huge personal foul penalties against Utah in the red zone.
Vele to the right. Thomas offset. 3 tight ends to the left-hand side. Now Cam shifts everybody around and moves into the shotgun. First and goal from the ASU 7-yard line. Cam Rising backpedals to pass. Cam Rising throws to the outside. He's got a man wide open. Brad Keithy walks it into the end zone. Touchdown! All by himself along the near sideline. Keithy walks it in. And Utah leads with 11:49 to play in the ball game.
See, I like those throws where the guy's just wide open. Although those can be hard, too, because he's so wide open. A lot of times you miss it. But that's fun when you get an easy touchdown like that.
And they don't come a whole lot easier than that. ASU lost Brant Keithy near the goal line. Jordan Noyes to try to make it a 7-point Utah advantage. PAT is up. PAT is good. 21 unanswered for the Utes. And they lead it 28-21 with 11:49 to play here in the ball game. That touchdown by Brant Keithy, 7 yards, capping an 11-play, 67-yard drive that took 4:41 off the game clock. Jordan Noyes has it teed up on the south end of Rice-Eccles Stadium, and he'll kick to the north. A Spatstad coming here after the kickoff. Crowd in full throat right now here at Rice-Eccles. Noyes approaches, drives it upfield with a right foot, and Rashad White's not going to bring it out. So Utah, on their 3 second-half drives, Scott, have gone 9 plays, 75 yards and a touchdown. 6 plays, 68 yards and a touchdown. 11 plays, 67 yards and a touchdown. And Cam Rising, who was 8 for 18 with 2 picks in the first half, is 8 for 10 with 95 yards and a touchdown here in the second half.
Yeah, and he's been running the ball like so efficiently, and just this whole team just seems to be inspired right now.
Jaden Daniels brings out the ASU offense, 1st and 10 from their own 25. He's going to keep it out on the edge. Jaden Daniels to the edge and out of bounds at about the 28-yard line, forced out of bounds there by Kareni Reed. Clark Phillips also in the area as well, a gain of 2.5, almost 3 yards on first down. And that'll bring up 2nd down and 7. Clock running with 11.5 to play in the ball game. Bunch formation to the left-hand side. Daniels in an empty backfield. They hand it to Rashad White off that left-hand side. Rashad White through a hole, diving. First down yardage beyond the 35 to the 37. Picks up almost 10 yards and a first down. It looked like they might have him stopped after about 3 or 4 yards, but a good push and surge off that left-hand side got him the first down.
Yeah, and again, when Utah catches the defenders, they make yardage, but when they play downhill, they really stop ASU.
White stays in the ball game on 1st and 10 from the ASU 37. They'll hand it again to White, diving into the hole and stuffed. Right at the line, maybe a half yard behind the line of scrimmage. Absolutely stuffed on the play. Kareni Reed led the charge that time. 2nd down and 10.5 coming up.
Yeah, that again, it's just a great example of those two different plays just have a different result because the defense is just playing more aggressive.
10.5 to play in the ball game. 2nd down and 10 for ASU at their own 37. Daniels awaits in the gun. Hands it again to White off that left-hand side. Short gain by Rashad White. Kareni Reed in the area again. A little help over there that time by Nephi Sewell. That'll bring up 3rd down and long. And the students who are here and not on a fall break in the MUS are
takeaways from a Thursday night of college football. I will admit to you, I have not watched the entirety of the Colorado-North Dakota State game yet. It was running concurrently to the University of Utah's home opener against Southern Utah, and that went late. And I got little kids, so in the morning I got things to do. I will say this. I was banging this drum. I was singing this tune. It's only going to get louder throughout the year. You can despise Colorado. You can hate the hype, the overhype, whatever you want to say. They are one of the most interesting teams in the country. We shouldn't be shy about that. Travis Hunter should win the Heisman Trophy. If the man is just on the field for the rest of the games, he is the best wide receiver on the field and the best corner on the field at the same time.
He's so good. That third touchdown catch with the guy draped all over him, it probably should have been called pass interference, but he caught it anyway.
Imagine being a corner who has to cover Travis Hunter, who is better at your job than you are, while also being good enough at receiver to beat you. It's crazy.
And Shedeur Sanders was awesome again last night. Now, I feel like Travis Hunter deserves the Heisman hype because of all of the things you just said. I feel like we're getting a little out of hand with what a great win by Colorado from some of the national people. I mean, North Dakota State is a great FCS team.
They're a great FCS team.
They are a national champion, perennial national championship contender in the FCS level, but they are still FCS.
Correct. And look, there are North Dakota State would probably beat the bottom 40 or 50 Division I teams, FBS teams, 9 out of 10 times. They're really good.
They could maybe win a group of 5 conference title once every few years, right? Or contend for one.
They probably look, they would be a winning program in FBS football in
bowl game just about every year.
In a group of 5 conference, they'd be a winning program at the very least. They would probably, like you said, every once in a while be contending. And that's without changing their personnel, without changing their facilities, and obviously that's what would happen if they moved up. But you're right. You can't say this was a great win by Colorado when if they had lost, you would have said this is an unforgivable, disgusting, terrible loss. Both of those things cannot be true at the same time. Getting a win over North Dakota State is not a great win if a loss to them is unforgivable embarrassment.
And Shedeur Sanders, even though 430 yards, 4 touchdowns, he had the pick, but that was not his fault. Kind of a pick, the fluky bounce off the defender's legs, right? Or was it the offensive player's legs? Anyway, but you have to take that with a whole bucket of salt. Not just a grain of salt. This was not going into Fort Worth last year on the season opener and throwing for 500 yards and looking like the best quarterback in the nation. This was looking really good against a team that you should have beat. And Travis Hunter, you could maybe say the same thing, but I don't think we nitpick that much with Travis Hunter because the guy's playing 2 positions at an elite level, like you just said.
The other thing about you got to get used to another thing on Colorado. You got to get used to Shedeur Sanders is going to play this well against most teams.
Yeah.
Shedeur Sanders is not the problem with Colorado.
No.
Now, the fact that he's making $5 million a year, I think they have his NIL evaluation at $4.7 million, which is crazy. That's look at I saw a graphic this morning that compared his yearly earnings this year projected to be that high, and Puka Nacua, who's a record-setting rookie wide receiver with obviously the local ties here in the NFL, his whole contract is $4 million. His whole rookie contract is $4 million.
Nuts.
So the dynamic, as we have discussed many times, in college and pro sports has changed really drastically, and it's insane. And you don't have to like the way that Shedeur Sanders carries himself and is constantly getting parking tickets and boots on his Bentley SUV and whatever. The kid is living a life that you and I will never, ever, ever understand. He was raised in a way that you or I will never, ever, ever understand because his dad is the best defensive back in the history of NFL football and also was a pro baseball player at the same time. That kid's life and our life are unrelatable, and so you shouldn't expect him to think, talk, act, spend the way that you do. You don't have to like him. I'm not telling you that. But you do have to get used to the fact that he is a good quarterback. He's really good at playing the position of quarterback.
He's always going to put up numbers like this for sure.
And you have to get used to the fact that your quarterback at the University of Utah is not going to be praised as heavily and as highly as that guy is. And I think that's why people get mad about it, because they're like, well, our guy's better. Oh, first of all, maybe.
Yeah, not a foregone conclusion.
Second of all, your guy is soft-spoken for the most part. Your guy lets his play tell the whole story for him. Your guy is coached by a man who doesn't want to be in the spotlight at all and doesn't have a trillion cameras in his face at the same time. And by the way, your guy is not coached by his dad, who also has those personality traits. Like, the attention that Shedeur Sanders gets on the field is 1,000% warranted. He is an excellent player. Everything else that I think bothers a lot of Utah fans, bothers a lot of people here in Utah for whatever their individual reasons are, you just got to throw it out. You don't it's not requisite for these pro athletes, and he is a pro athlete because he's making $5 million this year.
Insane.
They don't have to be what you want them to be. Charles Barkley established that for us a long time ago.
And he's a celebrity.
Yeah,
he's the Bill Parcells antithesis quarterback. He's the celebrity quarterback, and that's we all have to live with that. And because he's gonna put up the numbers and he's gonna perform in a way that warrants this attention, even if he wasn't acting like a celebrity off the field. And you're right, even though Witt and Cam have a lot more substance than Deion and Colorado have as far as wins and the things that actually matter, they're not asking for the kind of attention, so they're just not going to get it. Although I did like Witt's little nod to Deion in the press conference talking about wearing shades. That was pretty good. He's soft spoken, but he'll get those jabs in there.
By the way, if you're Dallin Hayden, who could have gone anywhere in the country as a running back, and now you are playing for a team that put up 59 yards rushing against an FCS opponent. Yes, a very good FCS opponent, but 59 yards rushing while you're also throwing the ball all over the yard. You're just like, ugh, this is not the place I should be.
When you hear your coach tell reporters they're dumb for asking why you didn't run at the end of the game, and he answered it like we didn't run because the passing game was doing great. That's why we didn't run the whole game. And it's like, Coach, we asked about the last play of the game.
So Colorado, look, they are one of the most fascinating teams in the country today. That's going to erode by about week 5. But they're still going to have the best player in college football.
And a guy who's on the short list of best quarterback in college football.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And completely backwards. A wild season. James, I need to take another break here. Is that right?
Yeah, we better. I would say we double things up, but each of them are a little bit longer than usual. So I say another shorter segment on the other side.
We will jump back into the Utah versus Southern Utah game. I told you my 5 most important plays. We're going to get to some pros and cons. The pros are the overwhelming sentiment here, but I'll listen to your cons. 877-353-0700 on the Dish Pros text line as well. And don't forget about my friends down at Postnet. Ask them about virtual mail. We all are so accustomed to using email and rifling through our phone for all this contact information, but you still have a physical address. You still have physical mail that comes. Well, virtual mail from Postnet and Postnet.com puts those two things together. You can manage your physical mail digitally with a virtual mail service, a virtual mailbox from the Utah Postnet locations. They're in Draper, North Salt Lake, Spanish Fork, and West Valley. Postnet.com, and tell them that OC sent you. Pros and cons from the Utah SUU game next on ESPN 700.
10 seconds on the play clock as they break the huddle now. Pledger stays in the ball game. Rising goes under center. 3 on the play clock for Rising. Cam turns and gives it TJ Pledger to the outside. 25, 20, 15. Hurdles a man at the 10 and down to the Arizona State 8-yard line goes TJ Pledger. It's 1st and goal, Utah. Markham made the touchdown-saving tackle on TJ Pledger.
And TJ, well, the clock keeps running here, but just a great effort play here. You want to try to stay in bounds and almost leaped it, but it's that run that I was saying they're so aggressive that if someone misses, you're gonna pop a big run here.
Inside of 3 to play, 1st and goal from the 7-yard line. Rising under center. Pledger the back of the backfield. Cam Rising turns and gives it to Pledger. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown! TJ Pledger in the end zone for 6. 2:39 to play, and Utah leads it 34-21.
You know, Utah early on in the season was not a good second half team, and it's almost like they're better in the second half. That youthful enthusiasm kind of gets calmed down at halftime, and they come out and just play lights out in the second half.
Jordan Noyes' PAT is up, and it's good. 2:39 to play, and Utah has scored 28 unanswered here in the second half. 12 plays, 82 yards, 6 minutes, 58 seconds off the game clock. And TJ Pledger from 7 yards out makes it Utah 35 and ASU 21. DJ Taylor, Brian Thompson back deep to receive the Jordan Noyes kick, which is end over end, but it's returnable and short. Taylor takes it at the 2-yard line. DJ Taylor up the field, flag flies. He gets to the outside 25-30, 35-40, 45, and out of bounds at midfield. But I think this one's coming back. There's 2 flags on the field, and both likely to go against Arizona State here at the 16-yard line.
Yeah, they're in a pile there together.
Yep, it's going to be a block in the back on ASU. This one's coming back. 93-yard field, making a 92-yard field for Jaden Daniels in the shotgun at his own 2-yard line. Ngata with him in the backfield. Daniels is going to pass. Pressure coming up the middle. He dumps it off to Ngata. He's got it at about the 6-7-yard line. Out to the 10 he goes. That'll be a 2-yard gain, and that's it. Clock continues to run here. 2:17, 2:16. ASU's only got 2 timeouts left.
Well, and ASU is a team that's not going to throw the ball down the field. You just keep it in front of you and let the clock run down.
2nd down and 8. Daniels will pass again. Stepping up away from the pressure. He's going to run now. Jaden Daniels to the outside. He's got the 25. Jaden Daniels out of bounds, and a flag flies in behind the play at the 20-yard line. Daniels picked up 20 yards on the run, but this one might be coming back too. It is. They're going to get
pros and cons from Utah versus Southern Utah. Don't forget also the Salt Lake Bees season winding down. There's only a month of Bees baseball left. If you want some tickets, we've got ticket vouchers for you. Text Bees to 33986. Win a pair of tickets to a Bees home game. They got a homestand next week as the season winds down. And very sadly, as the home of the Bees being Smith's Ballpark, that's not going to be a reality anymore. I love that place, man. So great. I'm sure it'll be wonderful out in Daybreak. I don't live near Daybreak, and all I care about is how this affects me.
Selfish. What about all the great people of Daybreak and on the west side there, OC?
Yeah.
No, you're right, though. There's nothing wrong with Smith's Ballpark, and it is a beautiful park, and I'm sure the Daybreak Park will be beautiful as well. It feels like unnecessary move by the Bees, but it's happening anyway. So don't miss out.
I'm just bothered that I wasn't consulted.
Yeah, just please just talk to me next time. Please.
All right. pros and cons for Utah versus SUU, part of our Big 12 at noon. Every day we're talking Big 12 at noon, courtesy of our good friends over at Mountain Land. Mountain Land Supply, mountainlandsupply.com. I don't know if you've been there to the showroom. It makes you want to buy like a mansion just so you can put all that cool stuff there.
Dangerous place to go then.
All right, pros and cons. The pass game was humming, okay? That's the pro. Passing game looked on point. The con, I've already mentioned once on the show today. I didn't love the push from the offensive line. Now, asking an offensive line to create immaculate pockets and be focused on that in the pass game and also be road graders, even in the NFL, it's sometimes hard to switch back and forth. You give a little bit of grace because we understand that this has happened in recent years. If there's a knock on Jim Harding and his offensive lines, it's that sometimes it takes a minute to get them ramped up to full speed. It's a first world problem to have because they're a big, nasty, talented group. I'm not overly concerned about it, but that was one of the cons from last night's game. Another pro. It is abundantly clear that all of our expectations that this was going to be a team with a lot of different weapons that you could distribute the ball to, Andy Ludwig is just sitting on a cache of gold. He is just Smaug under the mountain, like, look what I've got here. I can throw the ball to this guy. I can run a little pitch here. Cam Rising, we're going to try and protect him, but he's not going to listen to us, so even he's still a running threat. Look at all these tight ends I have. Look at all of my tight ends. You know, that's a pro. The cons, again, specific to last night's game, were that even when guys were wide open, even when you were in a situation where the deployment of those weapons happened perfectly, didn't get the ball to the right guy, didn't get the ball into the hands effectively. You get to be nitpicky, and that's a nitpicking con. The pro is the far more overwhelming thing here that Andy Ludwig now has. He's just a mad scientist with a million options for offensive weapons. And Micah Pittman is going to be a bigger factor in this offense. Dorian Singer, here's another pro, I should say, another con of the fact that you have all those options. Like Dorian Singer last night left the game happy that they won, but if you were listening to postgame, he was like, man, I should have had a touchdown. Micah Pittman, happy that they won, but leaving the game thinking, man, I should have had a touchdown. It is going to be a challenge to keep all of these weapons happy. Let's not pretend that's not the case. It's going to be a challenge, but it's the best challenge to have to face. So that's a con. Huge pro. Van Bleepin Fillinger. Holy cow. I told you, I'll be honest, I have been more skeptical of his rise to the potential we saw in him as a recruit. I've looked at him and been like, good player. I don't know if he'll ever be a great player. And this is not the game that tests it. This is not the game that confirms one way or another whether or not Van ever becomes truly a great player in a Utah football uniform. But you could not have asked for a better start from the big man. He looked awesome. He was physically dominant at the point of attack. He cleaned up or toned or figured out the pass rush in a way that nobody else on the team did to the same extent. He had a couple of sacks last night. That was great to see. Huge pro, because if I was making a list preseason, I was saying, like, he's probably like the fourth guy for me. Like, I would think that he'll finish the year with the fourth highest total of sacks. The con was that he was the only quote-unquote star in the defensive end room that really showed that last night. Logan Fano and Connor O'Toole converged on a shared sack. They each got a half sack last night in the first quarter. but were otherwise relatively quiet in the pass rush. They only had so many opportunities. Southern Utah executed a very conservative game plan after this game got out of hand as well. They didn't want to extend things. They didn't want to keep the clock rolling. They ran the ball, even though they knew they weren't going to be overly productive in the run game. So I'm not making a definitive statement in any kind of finality. But Utah SUU, the pros and cons, Fillinger, awesome. The other guys, still waiting. An extension of the first one I said, Cam Rising, it took a little bit of adjusting, right? But he got the accuracy back, he got the comfort back. He hit more than he missed. 66% of his passes were completed. There's a couple that he would like to have back. We'll talk with him about that in the Rising report. We won't spend a lot of time on it because what matters is he was productive. He looked good. He came out of the game healthy. The pro that Cam is back is such a, it is so important to what Utah football wants to do this year that it cannot be overstated. All of you know that. The con is that Cam Rising is not going to protect himself. He's not. I don't even know if I wanted to list that as a con, but because I know it reflects the attitude of some of the fans, I will list it as such. He's not going to protect himself. He doesn't want to do that. You saw that last night. The coaching staff and Cam are going to have a little disagreement in the film room. He'll say, all right, you're right. I won't do that anymore. And then he will. A little fast and loose on the runs. For me, not as big of a con because you got to be what you got to be. Pro in this game. We saw a full half of Isaac Wilson. That's a huge pro. You wanted to see what the backup was going to do. The con was, got a little shaky at moments. But maybe I should flip my attitude and I should say that's actually a pro as well. Because if he's going to make mistakes, and every freshman quarterback, every new quarterback is going to make mistakes, this is the game you wanted to see it. Let Isaac Wilson experience these growing pains when you are up 5 scores, when you are up 6 scores, when you are up 7 scores. So maybe I'll reverse my tone on that one. I have no problem with that, with him being the number 2 guy moving forward, even after he took the sack, he threw a couple of interceptions. Let the growing pains happen in a year where you don't need him to be leading you to wins consistently. Another big pro here, the offensive and defensive backups, and Utah got down to its 3rd string basically last night. Defense still turned in a clean sheet. We have seen it happen so often that even in a game against an FCS opponent or in a game that has gotten completely out of hand against an overmatched power opponent, the coaching staff does what it wants to do, and it takes out the starters, and it lets those guys put on a hat and smile on the sideline and get rest and start icing and get a little head start on their rehab, whatever. Then you're watching, and you're like, oh, man, linebacker number 3 just got out of position. The tight end ran past him. That's an unnecessary touchdown that this team just gave up. The backups, and we talked so much about the depth of this team, the backups held serve. At the end of the day, it doesn't mean any more. It's not any more impressive of a win if you win by 49-0 or 56-10 or 49-7, right? Doesn't matter. I guess to some of you bettors out there, one of those numbers might have mattered. But it doesn't matter if you give them up in like a, hey, are you good? Is this team what we think it is standpoint? But the backups coming in and pitching that shutout the same way the starters did, is a reflection of what I was talking about yesterday when I said, hey, when you watch this team beat up on Southern Utah because we knew it was going to happen, you want to pay attention to the little details like the kick coverage and like the backups going in and playing and taking the same ownership and knowing it's just as important for them as it was for Cam Rising and Brant Keithy and Junior Tafuna and Keanu Tanuvasa and all those guys. Dallas Vakalahi, how many times did we mention his name in the preseason? How many times? Spoiler alert, it was 0. He played great last night, got a sack and everything. That's what you want to see when you're all the way down to the 2s and 3s. And to be fair, Southern Utah was down to their 2s and 3s also because Delane Fitzgerald was going to protect his starters. But that was a big pro. That was a huge advantage coming out of this game. The overwhelming con, and I'll finish the segment with this, the real downside, the con, was an unavoidable bad luck non-contact injury for Kenan Johnson, and then the dubious at best, maybe kind of a dirty play that took out Aliki Vimahi. We still don't know if those are season-ending injuries. All indications point to the fact that they are at least very serious, and those guys are going to miss significant time, if not the whole year. In the Kenan Johnson case, it was unfortunate. In the Aliki Vimahi case, I got a text from my guy Jeff Schwartz, who played offensive line in the league for 9 years. He said that was a dirty play, and the SUU coach knew it and got in the face of his own guy. So that's really unfortunate. Show today and every day is brought to you by Les Schwab Tires. Les Schwab has the tires, wheels, and accessories for whatever you drive. Whatever you drive. I might be on the two-wheeled minivan today. Stop by your local Les Schwab today, and their professionals will get the job right the first time. Sean O'Connell Show. I want to take a look around the huge games coming up this weekend. Lee Sterling is going to join us in 10 minutes to help handicap those games for all of you who like to wager for entertainment purposes only. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700.
So 1st and 10 Utah at the SC 25. 8.5 to play in the ball game. Tavion Thomas back in here for Utah. Handoff, Tavion, straight ahead, into the pile. 2 hands wrapped around it to the 19-yard line for a gain of 6. He's got big arms. When he puts both of them around the ball, it's going to be hard to get it out. Jacob Lichtenstein with the tackle there for USC. 6-yard gain.
Yeah. And a nice gain there on first down. And again, I like just the quarterback keeper score a touchdown right here. Because USC, they're going to sell out to the run.
4th trip into the University Credit Union red zone tonight for Utah. At the 19-yard line, 2nd down and 4. Utes taking their time, a lot of time here. 8 on the play clock, 7 on the play clock. They're not going to get this thing off, I don't think. Here they go, hurrying to the line, 5 on the play clock. Rising turns and play action rolls to his right, dumps it off in the flat. That ball is caught, and then out of bounds goes Mekhi Bernard with first down yardage to the USC 10-yard line. That's going to be first down and goal.
That's almost a bootleg.
That gives you the option.
Yeah.
Gives you the option. First and goal, Utah at the USC 10.
Great
Wouldn't
job.
you love to see him stick another one in?
One of the great things about Utah playing a game on a Thursday night is it opens up your weekend to scout future opponents in the Big 12, to watch BYU play and see what the Cougs are going to be on November 9th. Or maybe just watch them because you're curious and you're a fan of BYU, although you're probably not listening to the show if that's your primary interest, if I'm being honest with myself.
Shout out to our Cougs listeners, though, everyone that's out there. We love you, too.
We do. I actually think BYU, I've said it many times, I think they're going to be better than that 13th in the league projection that they got down at Big 12 Media Days, but we will see. And they got Southern Illinois to start the season. You got to get off to the right start there. Their schedule is not always favorable here in 2024. Kansas was in action last night. Kansas, by the way, ESPN Analytics has Kansas with the highest percentage, the highest odds to win the Big 12 conference.
And Utah was what, tied for 4th or something?
Yeah, tied for 4th.
That graphic completely baffled me.
One of the funny things about analytics is we all know that they are like a fun and sometimes necessary evil, but very few of us have a real understanding of how it works.
It's true. If I knew the intricacies of what went into that number, maybe I'd go, okay, I can see it. I don't see it without knowing those things.
I would probably, the more likely outcome, James, is that you would find out what went into that number, and you would use those things to reject the number.
Yeah.
You'd just be like, oh, no, you shouldn't have put that
true.
in. You shouldn't have factored that in. That doesn't matter here. Because we're all looking for confirmation bias at this point in a season. When you have one game sample size now for Utah and one game sample size for Colorado and for Kansas, but everyone else is still at 0 games in the Big 12, we're looking at this thing and going like, okay, my expectations are based on preseason conversation. I don't like that analytical number. It's like meteorology.
Yeah.
You know, like I know that the weather folks have some idea of what's coming, but there's so much variability. I don't always believe their predictions. I don't live my life around them.
We also know that they spend a lot of time looking at the models that help them make their forecasts, and it's not like they're just rolling out of bed and going, you know what, I'm going to say it's raining today.
They might.
But so there's always a lot of time, and same thing with these analytical models and things. It's just you go, I don't know how a Utah team this talented with a schedule this favorable could have them be tied for 4th, the best odds to win their conference.
Now, maybe they generated that model as soon as they saw Kenan Johnson go down.
Yeah, they did show that, third quarter, so who knows?
So maybe it was affected by that because, look, if most teams in the country lose a starting corner, that's going to affect the prospects.
Yeah.
So in any case, analytics are great as a tool. They are also something that we reject if they don't confirm what we want them to say.
And it is interesting, at the very least, that, again, a team like Utah that seems like they're set up to be the favorite to win the conference, media seems to think that way too, is that there's 3 or 4 other teams that have, analytically have a better chance. It is interesting to see, and it makes you go, what, maybe people are underestimating teams like Kansas more than they should.
So Kansas, number 22 in the preseason poll, 48-3 over Lindenwood. Bonus point for you if you could tell me the mascot of Lindenwood.
The mascot, Lancers.
I appreciate what you did there. Going with the alliterative title is the correct move, but they're the Lindenwood Lions. Good try.
Lions.
The Lindenwood Lions, who have maybe the most cartoonish and silly logo in all of college football. 48-3 for Kansas there. NC State beat Western Carolina 38-21. NC State also a ranked team in the preseason. They come in at number 24. Missouri, 51-0 over Murray State. 5 more bonus points for you, James, if you know Murray State and their mascot.
Spartans?
Oh, my gosh.
Is that right?
The Racers.
Racers, okay. I thought
Murray State has made enough appearances in the NCAA tournament that you should know.
You're right. John Morant would be upset with me right now. He might pull something out at me right now.
We're doing I see what you did there.
and film it on Instagram.
The Obscure Mascot Challenge is a time-honored tradition on any radio show that I do. Anytime you get an obscure school, I'm throwing mascots at you. Don't cheat, all right? Don't look them up.
I wasn't looking up mascots. I was looking up Arkansas's new quarterback because he was insane. I'm sure you'll get to that game, but he was incredible last night.
The reason the Arkansas game, I think, draws interest for most Utah football fans is because of a departed lost love.
I have the bonus.
No bonus points.
Oh, man.
Everyone learned Arkansas's mascot when Bill Clinton was president.
Oh, okay.
Razorbacks. There's no obscure mascots in the SEC. All right,
Pig Suey.
You don't. Jaquindon Jackson had the touchdown, waved to the cheerleader.
Yeah.
He's having a blast. He's enjoying himself. He's cashing in name, image, and likeness. I know there are people out there who are like, man, why did you leave us? Everyone has their reasons these days, and his seemed to be at least partially motivated by family proximity, which hopefully all of us can appreciate.
Oh, yeah.
Although I don't actually appreciate it. All right, we got to take a break because Lee Sterling, handicapper, insider in the wagering world, he's going to join us next from Paramount Sports. We're going to talk about his plays for the weekend. He sends us a list. He gives you some free picks. We're going to have a little bit of fun in the wagering world with Lee Sterling next. We'll do it every Friday, by the way. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700.
Tavion Thomas in the ball game. Cam Rising in the shotgun. 2 receivers left and right. 2 of those receivers are tight ends. From the Utah 18-yard line, 1st down and 10. Rising will roll to his right, look down the field, dump it off. Not much there. He got it to Fotheringham, who got maybe a yard. Yeah, they'll give him a yard to the 19, and that's about it. ASU's ready for that little tight end crosser now. But he stays in bounds. The clock continues to run here. 2nd down and 9.
Yeah, and you really have to kind of – this works so much better when you're under the line of scrimmage because it really draws those linebackers in. But ASU just read that very well. And
3 tight ends this time. Tavion Thomas back there. ASU crowding the line of scrimmage. They're going to hand it to Tavion. Tavion looking, searching, pushing forward, and got a yard to the 20. ASU really swarming right now. They've found a second win on defense. And that'll bring up 3rd down and 8 here for Utah from their own 20-yard line.
It almost looked like well, now, Bam Olaseni was blocking his guy, and Tavion ran right in the back of him.
It's hard to miss Bam. He's 6'8" and 320 pounds.
It's hard to get around him. I mean,
Utah 5 out of 9 on 3rd down tonight. 2 out of 3 here in the second half. Got to get to the 28-yard line to convert this 3rd down. Rising with Thomas. They're in the shotgun. ASU looking like only a 4-man rush here, and here they come, just 3. Lots of time for Rising. Steps, fires, caught at the 30-yard line. They'll mark him at the 29. Brant Keithy. He needed 8. He picked up 9, and that's a first-mile first down.
Yeah, we talked about the tight ends and how they would be such an impact in this game. And Brant Keithy's had some just big throws. Great, just an option route goes up and just breaks away from where the defender is, and just really nice. He gets a body on him. Great location on that throw by Cam Rising, and tight ends are coming up big for Utah.
3 tight, 1 wide receiver formation again under center this time is Cam Rising. ASU crowding the line of scrimmage, and now Cam's going to change the play. He's got man coverage down to the bottom here if he wants to. He hands the time to Tavion Thomas instead, and Tavion stacked up and driven backwards behind the line of scrimmage for about a 2-yard loss back to the 27-yard line. ASU just selling out for the run when they do that, Scott.
Yeah, and again, it's that edge rush that they just got to hit it to the inside there because they get out on that edge, and ASU just really has an answer for that.
Couple of first downs would be huge here for Utah. Even if they don't get points, they could really milk this clock. We're at 7:20 of the clock running to play here in the ball game. 2nd down and 11. Thomas stays in the ball game. This time a 4-wide look here for Utah. Rising to pass, plenty of time, throws to the outside, caught on the outside to the 35-40, up the field it goes, and beyond the 40 and first down yardage. That's Britton Covey. Another big pitch and catch to Britton Covey and a first-mile first down. They needed 11. They picked up 13 and a half, and that's a first down to the 42.
Yeah, and earlier in the game, Covey broke across the field. If you remember, the linebacker stopped him, and this time he faked like he was going to go across the field, and then he went to the outside, and he's wide open on that situation. But love Britton Covey in that open space.
3 tight end look again here for Utah with Tavion Thomas. ASU crowding the line of scrimmage. Rising under center. Rising turns and gives it to Tavion. Tavion running to the outside, keeps his feet, stays on his feet, and dives forward, stays in bounds, picks up a yard to about the 43-yard line. They're just really selling out. I wonder if Utah's setting up a play action here out of this 3 tight end look.
Yeah, and that was about a half a block away from being a really big play right there. But definitely, this ASU defense is getting nosy here, and a big play or a shot play might not be a bad call.
Vele to the near side. Theo Howard to the far side. 2 tight end look on 2nd down and 9. They'll snap, throw, inside.
It's a big Thursday night in Salt Lake City. I was there having some fun. Sean O'Connell Show covering everything as closely as possible for your Utah season. We'll do the same for the Cougs and the Aggies and every college football team around the country when we are able. One of the fun things to do in a college football season and a pro football season is, you maybe make a friendly little wager here and there. Sprinkle a little skin in the game if that's what you're so inclined to do. Entertainment purposes only, of course. I decided, though, since this is the reality of the world that we live in, that we need to get a professional to advise us. We need someone who actually knows what they're doing on some of these lines and some of these numbers. And my friend Lee Sterling is the best in the business from Paramount Sports, and he joins us now on the Sean O'Connell Show. Lee, how are you?
I'm good. Crazy first night. I mean, we almost saw a couple huge upsets. We saw Colorado almost get upset. North Carolina State was taken to the wire. So that's what makes college football so great. People don't realize how good some of these teams and players are that play at FCS schools.
There are some great players at FCS schools, some great coaches at FCS schools, and I think there are several weeks this year where you should be sweating out upsets, no matter who your favorite team is. I know that there's a couple Ute fans out there that are confident in even the games against the best teams, but, man, you can have anybody sneak up on you even in this Big 12 conference. So we'll see how it all plays out this year. A massive weekend, Lee, coming up in college football. Some big games on the opening slate. And you've highlighted a couple for us. Let's start with BYU and Southern Illinois. BYU is not projected to be great this year by most prognosticators, but in this game, they are heavy favorites.
Yeah, and I think the key to this game and maybe this season might be a coach. New offensive line coach TJ Woods from Georgia Southern. This guy is a great teacher. I think the kids are going to buy in. Brought in a transfer from Southern Utah. I think they got to give the ball to Martin more. You develop the run. They couldn't run the football last year. Just 3.5 yards per carry. You get in that 4.2 to 4.3 range. It's going to open up the passing game. I think the special teams were good last year. They'll even be better this year. They're not going to win shootouts. Just not going to. You don't go from, averaging just 23.1 points per game to above 30. But I think they can get to 27, 28 here. And I think they have a big advantage. I think they win and cover this game here, something like 38-7.
So BYU is the play here as 16-point favorites, according to Lee Sterling. All right. We're all keeping a close eye on things in the sort of nationally ranked world, and you can't have the conversation about power football and who the best in the country is without talking about the Georgia Bulldogs. They have created a little mini dynasty, and maybe it grows into a bona fide dynasty if you can start strong this year. 13-point favorites against Clemson. How do you have it?
So both teams return similar number of starters. Georgia returns 14, Clemson 13. So you're thinking, hey, why is this line so big? Well, Clemson and Dabo decides they're not going to take transfer players. Well, they're one of only 4 programs not doing it. Army, Navy, Air Force, no, not Marines, Clemson. So Dabo is wound so tight on this, and he is catching some heat. He went off on a caller on his weekly call-in show, and they're not taking live questions anymore. People, if they want to reach him, they've got to submit their questions a couple days in advance so they can pour through them. I just think that, he's lost touch a little bit. Also, Georgia, yeah, they're 2-time defending champion, and they said, yeah, we'll take the right kid if he's right for our program. They got Trevor Etienne from Florida, game breaker at running back. Trevor Yaroshik, a stud tight end from Stanford, and Colby Young, a receiver from Miami. So they really have 17 returning starters. They have the number 4 special teams in the country. And Cade Klubnik is not the guy. I mean, he beat out, DJ Ugalele, but that's not saying much here. Sometimes you got to lay it if you want to play it. Georgia, 31-13.
The other thing about that, the Cade Klubnik, there were folks that DJU moved on to Oregon State, right? And then there were folks in Clemson country who were just like, hey, can we get him back? This Klubnik is not what we thought he was going to be. That's one weird factor in the transfer portal is even if you're happy to see someone go out the door, their replacement has to be better, or else you start pining after what was lost.
Looks good in a uniform, looks good in practice, looks good in the spring game, just hasn't translated into the 14 games he started.
Unfortunate. All right. Penn State, West Virginia. This one, look, in this part of the country, we always campaign, hey, you got to understand the rivalry that is Utah versus BYU. You got to understand how Utah feels about playing the Southern California teams. You got to understand the regionality and the cultural differences and some of the intricacies here. I feel like maybe out west we don't understand how the Pennsylvania schools and the West Virginia schools, how there's like rivalry there, and there's cross promotion and there's pollination in the coaching staffs and things like that. Penn State, West Virginia, and Penn State is an 8-point favorite.
Yeah, I mean, Penn State, Pitt, and Penn State, West Virginia is huge. Played 60 times. Penn State's beat them. They're the big brother 49 of the 60 times. West Virginia has some talent. I mean, they have a really good running game. They have a 1-2 punch, and a quarterback can run, operate the play action, the RPO, and Garrett Green. But the problem here is Penn State can beat average to poor teams, and of their 10 wins last year, 9 of them were by 17 points or more, and one of them was against West Virginia as a 20-point favorite. This line started at 13. It's down to 8 now. Everyone's buying in. I mean, every radio program, this is their upset of the week, but I don't see it. Penn State, you can't bully this team. They're not ready to beat Ohio State or Oregon, in my opinion, but they're going to handle West Virginia. Their quarterback, Drew Allar, threw for 325 and 3 touchdowns in the game last week. So I think West Virginia is going to have a nice season, but people perceive them as having a great home field advantage. They're great at burning couches. Problem is, they're just 6-7 against the spread as a home underdog under Neil Brown. Lee Corso says, not so fast. Penn State, 31-20.
My guest is Lee Sterling, best in the business at Paramount Sports, helping us handicap some of these games. So far, he likes the favorites. A Big 12 future opponent for Utah. The game that a lot of people have circled is Stillwater, Oklahoma State. This week, Oklahoma State is a 9-point favorite. How do you have it?
Oklahoma State returns 19 starters. And when you have Ollie Gordon, a lot of people are going to like you. I think one of the main reasons people like him is they beat Oklahoma. First time in a long time by 7. But they got routed by Texas by 28, never in the game. South Alabama beat them 33-7. Central Florida beat them 45-3. South Dakota State was undefeated last year. I mean, their head coach retired and Jimmy Rogers takes over. But, I mean, this is a team that averaged dominating games. They averaged over 186 yards per game, more than their opponents. They were 5-1 against the spread as an away underdog. Yeah, they have only 10 starters returning, but they return their quarterback and tons of depth here. Upset of the weekend here. Wrong team favored. South Dakota State outright 28-24.
Whoa! Whoa! That is a big upset pick, Lee Sterling. Throwing it down in his first visit to the Sean O'Connell Show. That would send ripples across the Big 12 very certainly. All right. Yep. We're not in the same conference here in Salt Lake anymore as USC, but the people here, there's a certain level of venom and vitriol in their feelings towards the Trojans. You have a play here for LSU versus USC, which of course is another one of the big games in this opening weekend. LSU 4.5-point favorites.
Yeah, so 2 third-year coaches. I just think that Brian Kelly's farther along. I mean, he knew when he was at Notre Dame, after he played Alabama in the national title game a while ago, he just could not win it all up there. So he moves to LSU. He can recruit a different level of athlete here. And I love his coaching staff. Lincoln Riley can coach offensive football, but on defense, they can't stop anyone. They allowed almost 4.9 yards per carry last year. They return only 1 starter on the defensive line. Listen to where their starters come that transferred in for this year. 1 from Vanderbilt, 1 from Georgia State, 2 from UCLA, and 2 from Oregon State here. None of those 4 teams are known for much defense here. So a guy to watch in this game, Zavion Thomas. You're saying, who is Zavion Thomas? Well, he played for Mississippi State last year as a receiver, but his biggest asset to a team is as a returner. He averaged almost 34 yards a kick return, almost 12 yards per punt return. He can flip the field. LSU may not have Jaden Daniels, but they can run the ball. They have 3 potential all-conference offensive linemen. I think they're going to run it right down USC's throat here. Just much more fundamentally sound. LSU by double digits, 35-24.
All right, Lee. The free play this week, Houston and UNLV. Houston 2-point favorites. Houston also on Utah's schedule this year.
Yep, and UNLV coming off a 9-5 year. Anyone wants to get that game for free, call 800-400-9741. First 5 callers, I'll give it to them for free, 800-400-9741. And if you've never been to the website, go to ParamountSports.com. It's my 31st year in business. Former college quarterback. I'm going to give you the games that I'm personally playing, and watched every Division I spring game and every FCS team that's playing a Division I opponent this year. So I put in the time. We're not going to, like I said, win every game or every week, but 29 out of 30 winning years. So check us out, and a bunch of other free pick videos. Some big games going on around the country. Alabama is playing. Texas A&M, Notre Dame, and my Miami Hurricanes are going up to the Swamp playing Florida. So check out all those free videos. Sign up for the free picks. Just one place, ParamountSports.com.
Last thing before I let you go, someone just texted in. Lee, you got any good college prop picks? So Paramount Sports, you're playing the props too?
Yeah, I like Kansas over 8 wins. I think with Daniels back at quarterback, when he's healthy, they're a scary good team. I think the Big 12 is going to be a lot of fun. I think it might come down to the last week. You might have 3 or 4 teams in the running to see who makes the conference championship game. So it's going to be a lot of fun this year. I mean, you could be sitting at 20th, 25th in the country with 2 or 3 games left. You run the table and you're in the playoffs. So this is going to be, I think, the greatest college football season ever. So let's buckle down. And I told my wife, I'll see her in January.
That's Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports, best in the business. Thanks, Lee. Talk soon.
All right. See you, Sean.
Great stuff, as always, from Lee Sterling. Take a quick when we come back, talk Utes versus Southern Utah, and a look ahead to Baylor. Alex Markham from Rivals. Dijon Stanley. Was last night a look at what's going to happen every game or an anomaly? We'll figure it out on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700.
Yeah, really nice play by Cam here, and this is something that
10 seconds on the play clock as they break the huddle now. Pledger stays in the ball game. Rising goes under center. 3 on the play clock for Rising. Cam turns and gives it TJ Pledger to the outside. 25, 20, 15. Hurdles a man at the 10 and down to the Arizona State 8-yard line goes TJ Pledger. It's 1st and goal, Utah. Markham made the touchdown-saving tackle on TJ Pledger.
And TJ, well, the clock keeps running here, but just a great effort play here. You want to try to stay in bounds, and almost leaped it. But it's that run that I was saying. They're so aggressive that if someone misses, you're gonna pop a big run here.
Inside of 3 to play, 1st and goal from the 7-yard line. Rising under center. Pledger the back of the backfield. Cam Rising turns and gives it to Pledger. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown! TJ Pledger in the end zone for 6. 2:39 to play, and Utah leads it 34-21.
You know, Utah early on in the season was not a good second half team, and it's almost like they're better in the second half. That youthful enthusiasm kind of gets calmed down at halftime, and they come out and just play lights out in the second half.
Jordan Noyes' PAT is up, and it's good. 2:39 to play, and Utah has scored 28 unanswered here in the second half. 12 plays. 82 yards, 6 minutes, 58 seconds off the game clock. And TJ Pledger from 7 yards out makes it Utah 35 and ASU 21. DJ Taylor, Brian Thompson back deep to receive the Jordan Noyes kick, which is end over end, but it's returnable and short. Taylor takes it at the 2-yard line. DJ Taylor up the field, flag flies. He gets to the outside, 25-30, 35-40, 45 and out of bounds at midfield. But I think this one's coming back. There's 2 flags on the field, and both likely to go against Arizona State here at the 16-yard line.
Yeah, they're in a pile there together.
Yep, it's going to be a block in the back on ASU. This one's coming back. 93-yard field, making a 92-yard field for Jaden Daniels in the shotgun at his own 2-yard line. Ngata with him in the backfield. Daniels is going to pass. Pressure coming up the middle. He dumps it off to Ngata. He's got it at about the 6-7-yard line. Out to the 10 he goes. That'll be a 2-yard gain, and that's it. Clock continues to run here. 2:17, 2:16. ASU's only got 2 timeouts left.
Well, and ASU is a team that's not going to throw the ball down the field. You just keep it in front of you and let the clock run down.
2nd down and 8. Daniels will pass again. Stepping up away from the pressure. He's going to run now. Jaden Daniels to the outside. He's got the 25. Jaden Daniels out of bounds, and a flag flies in behind the play at the 20-yard line. Daniels picked up 20 yards on the run, but this one might be coming back too. It is. They're going to get the wide receiver Curtis Hodges on a hold here. So bring it back again with 1:57 to play.
Holding is being lazy. It really is. I mean, in a lot of situations, it's just people not moving their feet.
13 penalties for 115 yards on ASU. They've been their own worst enemy in that department.
Sean O'Connell Show on a Friday, digesting the Utah football home opener against Southern Utah, 49-0. Cam Rising, 5 touchdowns. 3 of those were thrown to Brant Keithy. Football is back. The Bad Moon Rising is back. Keithy looked absolutely incredible. That 3rd touchdown especially was an absolute monster play. The backups came in at halftime. We saw some good and some bad.
First and
Totally
10,
fine
Utah
with all
coming
of
out of
that.
this timeout.
Let the
A lot of
growing pains
time to
happen
play
when
still,
you've got a
though,
huge
fans.
lead over an FCS
Be great to be able to pay this drive off. We'll
Alex
see.
Markham, Utes Insider from Rivals, is stopping by so we can talk more about this game. Alex, how are you?
Sean, how's it going, man? Sorry about that. I had a little bit of difficulties with my microphone here.
Oh,
So.
You sound great. No worries at all. All right, let's talk about Dijon Stanley. If there was a breakout star last night, because we already knew what Cam is capable of. We already knew what Brant is capable of. Dijon, with his couple touchdowns and looking good in the run game as well, I thought was a bit of a revelation. High hopes for him. Knew he was a great athlete. Do you think this is what we see from him in the offense consistently, or was this simply a guy who's a better athlete outmatching an undermanned FCS team?
I like what I saw, right? And there's a lot of potential there. There's some caveats to it, right? Is one, I'd call him more of a hybrid running back, right? He can't power through the line. We saw a lot of misdirections with him. We saw the wheel routes, and so he's still got to add that weight. But Ludwig has plays designed for him that is going to suit his abilities. He's going to take advantage of it after seeing what they saw last night. In live action, they're going to increase those plays. They're going to find more ways, and so he's going to become a featured piece of this offense, and it's going to be fun to watch. It kind of gives me memories back to when they'd line up Steve Savoy running the ball, and I think that's actually something I kind of mentioned to you in one of our last conversations. Is you get him out of the backfield like that, and it's lethal. You have to use him.
Boy was in the building last night, by the way. Steve was there
watching
his quarterback, Alex Smith, go into the Ring of Honor, which was a great moment at halftime. The Smith family was there. Alex with the little teary-eyed, and right there on the press box, on the side, on the facade, you've got Alex Smith as the first inductee into the Ring of Honor. And look, you want to perform well when a legend is in the building. It was interesting because Cam Rising actually passed Alex Smith all-time total passing touchdowns records in the Utah record books while Alex was there in the building. 5 touchdown passes last night. Just your thoughts on Cam Rising's performance. 10 of 15, 254, 5 touchdowns in a half of football.
Yeah, at this rate, he's going to shatter Scott Mitchell's record. No, he did everything you could have asked for. I know a lot of people were nervous and just wanting to see him, get out there and perform again. And obviously, you got to keep him healthy, right? But he's been looking like this since spring ball, and you can tell that in his time off, he's even worked on his throwing motion. He looks good. I mean, hell, 10 completions, 5 touchdowns. 66% completion percentage. You can't ask for much more. And, it's kind of funny. I remember us having that conversation on when do you pull the starters. You and me were both wrong, man. I wasn't expecting them to get pulled before the half. So,
they did their work. They got him out. The offensive line, they let him get more reps. They let him play. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Defensive starters stayed in a lot longer than the offensive starters did, but it was great to see Utah go out there and do what was expected in a game against Southern Utah, who I can't say this enough. I really do think the T-Birds are a team on the rise. I was actually very sad to see their quarterback leave with, I hope not any serious injury. I don't want that. That the kid who started the game for them, that Barry kid, is a quality player. Got some athleticism, makes good decisions. Bronson Barron, the former Weber State guy, comes in. They ended up playing 3 quarterbacks in the game, and Delane Fitzgerald said they were going to do that. They were going to protect their roster as well. But, knock on wood that even SUU's quarterback is healthy as they move forward. I got to talk about the downside. I got to talk about the bad stuff from this game. There wasn't a lot, but the primary goal is to win. 1B is to win healthy. Kenan Johnson goes down with a non-contact injury on the backside of a play. It does not look good. It didn't look good down on the sideline. He was in serious pain, couldn't put weight on that leg, and pending scans, I don't think we're going to see more of Kenan Johnson. How big of a loss is that?
It's a huge loss. I mean, I told you guys that that was my newcomer to watch, and he came here and he ended up integrating so well into the system and was looking so good. They were so high on him, and so it's definitely a big blow. I mean, the cornerback room was already not that deep and had plenty of guys with injuries. So now you got Scooby Davis, Elijah Davis that came in. He had one blown play that ended up getting called back, but then he had the clutch pick. I've heard a lot of good things about him for quite a while. He's just been a part of a deep room, and now he's got his chance. But at the same time, too, it's where do you go from there? Cam Calhoun. Still open to interpretation on when he's going to be back. As soon as the faster he gets back, the better situation they're in. John Randall Jr. being moved over to cornerback recently. They're really going to have to increase his practice reps and try to give him some game reps now and see where it's at, because, even though he's newer to the position, I know that they've been extremely impressed and high on just what he's been able to do early on, and so that's another that could emerge. But yeah, it's that was tough seeing Kenan Johnson go down, and you got Vimahi going down too at a deep position, but you don't want to see that game one, and you don't want to see it, period, right? But you don't want to see it game one, and you don't want to see that happen against FCS opponents.
It's just really unfortunate. Aliki Vimahi also, again, pending scans, didn't look good, was what Coach Witt said in the post-game presser. Alex Markham from Rivals is our guest here. Utes Insiders are always brought to you by Metro Elevators. So if you live or work in a building with an elevator that doesn't seem to cooperate, doesn't get you where you're supposed to go on a regular basis, do the property or building manager a favor and tell them to call Metro Elevator. Utah's preferred vertical transportation experts are at 801-946-7003. That's 801-946-7003. All right, Brant Keithy, 3 touchdowns. The third one for me I put as one of my 5 most important plays of the game, because the first 2, that was the scheme working. That was him running free, pitch and catch. You or I could have scored those touchdowns. Well, you could have. I can't really catch, but
no, you can do it, buddy. You got this. I know you're defense, but
this guy in the third touchdown has 4 defenders between him and the end zone, and they just fall off. Like it looked like a little league play where the one kid who you want to see his birth certificate is just beasting his way through the defense. And that's not to insult Southern Utah's players. They were even in a good position. That was just a great football play by Brant Keithy. A 3-touchdown performance after 700-plus days away from football. What does that mean for this offense?
It's huge, man. And then, just to see him fight through those, right? It's the subtle little things that you look for in these games, and seeing him do that and fight like that and have no issues and no hesitation. That was encouraging, and it got the crowd into the game, and it was kind of funny. I mean, even after the game, Keithy's just sitting there and he's like, "No, they didn't really hit me. It wasn't that hard." He was trying to downplay it and all that stuff, and it's fun having Keithy back out there and, seeing that personality, especially when he hits the mic stand, because it's always comical, some of the comments that he makes just because of his confidence. And so the fact that confidence is there and, him and Cam connecting, like I made a comment the other day, those two, if you told them to throw on blindfolds and just start running around the field, they're going to complete the majority of their passes. I mean, they know what each other's doing. And so that was really encouraging, especially him setting that record for three touchdowns for a tight end in the first half for a Big 12 game. I mean, that was pretty cool.
I was somewhat surprised. The tight ends all got to play last night. We saw Carson Ryan on the field, Miki Tsugataraga on the field. We saw Landon King. We saw Dallin Bentley. We saw Brandt, obviously. Caleb Lohner gets the targets and the touchdown. I know all these guys are going to be involved at some point, but I think it's a statement from this coaching staff about their hopes for Caleb Lohner that they had him on the field early. I mean, he was open in the end zone in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. Brant Keithy got the score, but I don't know. It says a lot to me about what this kid can be in the offense that they're already putting trust in him so early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of belief that there's going to be an NFL team by the end of the season that takes a chance on him just because of the potential that he has there and that size. And I mean, again, it's like you look for the subtle little things, right? And with his touchdown catch, the way he went up for that and kind of bodied the guy like it was a rebound, and being able to have the hands to pull that in, that's a pretty scary thing to have in your tight end room. And there's going to be a lot of teams, sitting there trying to prep for Utah when it's their time, saying, how do you stop this? It's almost impossible.
I was encouraged to see Van Fillinger, who he's had his ups and downs. He's been a really, really solid player. I don't know if he's lived up to the potential we all saw in him when he was coming out of Corner Canyon High School just yet, but a great start for him. A couple of sacks, another tackle for loss, just, a physically dominant performance for him where he, more than anyone else in that pass rush, seemed like they were kind of leading the charge. And I was told by many people, because I've been, I'll be fair, I was probably maybe overcritical with him. And folks would tell me, hey, man, back off that, because this guy is a lot better than you think he is. He just plays hurt a lot. He doesn't sit on the sidelines and watch everyone else. He's doing what he can for this team with what is available to him with the way his body's breaking down. Well, he looked healthy last night. Is this going to be the guy that leads the charge in that pass rush?
As long as he stays healthy, and I think he can, I mean, you said it right there. He plays through injuries. He's a tough SOB, and so that's the thing that people need to know and understand is, it hasn't been that he hasn't played up to his potential. It's been that he's played through injuries, a lot more than maybe he should have. Like there was a point at, I want to say even like the halfway through point of the season last year that I'd caught wind that he might be shutting it down, because the injury from the year before still was having a rough time, fully recovering, or like something got aggravated. I can't remember. But he battled through it and did what he could. Yeah, man, it's refreshing to see him out there and just in good spirits. And I think everybody's going to be in for a really big year from Van, and then also pass rush wise and talking about guys injured and everything. Logan was only scheduled to have like 20 reps last night, so that's going to increase and increase and increase. Just the fact that he's already back from an ACL, that's huge. So those two guys right there in the pass rush department, it's going to be huge to be able to team up with Connor O'Toole.
A couple more minutes with Alex Markham, Utes Insider from Rivals, as we digest this Southern Utah versus Utah home opener. 49-0 is the final score. Utah gets off to the right start, and it'll be Baylor next. We'll get to that game in just a second, but a couple more thoughts on this SUU game. 185 yards on the ground for Utah. We didn't get the overall, hey, this is the guy who's going to emerge and be the star. We already talked about Dijon Stanley. He was huge in the passing game. He ran the ball well. What did you make of Mekhi Bernard's performance, Mike Mitchell's performance, Jalen Glover, all of whom were productive last night? but nobody really jumped off the page.
Right. Makai is going to be productive. It just depends on if it can be both in the run game and the passing game, or one or the other. So I'm not too concerned about Makai. I mean, he still averaged over 6 a carry, just in limited work. Mitchell ended up getting dinged up at one point. I know they wrapped him on the sidelines, and he played through it. So hopefully that's nothing too crazy. I know he had already been limping before he scored that touchdown, and so the fact that he was able to get outside on that run and still be able to score was a positive sign. So we'll see obviously how it's feeling the next few days here. Jalen Glover. I love the kid. I want to see more from him. I was surprised that he didn't have a little bit more production against a team like Southern Utah, because you would expect that to be a team that you plug him in and he's able to have his way and get a bunch of yards, build up that confidence, and be able to go from there. So I honestly feel like 3-4 games into the season, again, as long as Mitchell can keep himself healthy, I think you're going to be looking at a 3-headed monster with Bernard, Mitchell, and Stanley, with Mitchell slowly kind of eating into the majority of the regular running back carries, and the other guys being productive in the passing game. So I'm not too concerned about it, but that is the one thing last night, along with the injuries, that I wanted to see more of.
We talked going into this game saying, hey, we'd love to see as much Isaac Wilson as possible. And he did come in even before halftime, that final series before halftime. And look, it wasn't stellar. It's not the collegiate debut that he hoped for. I'm willing to be patient. I hope Utah fans are. This coaching staff has good reason to have named him the number 2 guy. What did you think of his performance and what it means for Utah's prospects moving forward if they need him to help win a game for real?
Look, I'll say this before kicking into it. Alex Smith's second pass he threw was for a pick 6 when he was a freshman. So the fact, I want to say, what was it? It was Isaac's first pass that he threw the pick on, right?
Yeah, his first play was a sack, and his first pass was a pick. So
it reminded me of Alex's first series when Alex came in way back in the day, and he was put in a bad situation. I know that the coaches and the players even acknowledged that. Whittingham did. Cam acknowledged it as well. But for the most part, get him in there, get his feet wet. There's going to be nerves going, whether he wants to admit it or not. The kid's a talent, and I know the program is extremely high on him. And you're not going to see many moments like he had in that first series the rest of the year when he's getting snaps.
I will echo that. The defensive backups also gave us something to look at. Jonnu Hall, I thought, looked awesome at linebacker. Anyone jump out for you on the defensive rotation after the starters left?
Oh, defensive rotation after the starters left. Look, I was happy. I was happy with Davis after he filled in with Johnson. I mean, that one was big to me, and so really kind of when it comes down to it, the defensive line did what they needed to do. And yeah, John O'Hall, like you said, I mean, that dude hits like a brick. I was really surprised. I wasn't surprised to see them move him to linebacker, because I knew that was always kind of the anticipation. But I knew that they were really liking him at safety last year, and so just to see him come in and make the effortless transition, that was a big deal. And so outside of that, there's not too much that you can really take away from the stuff with the backups, because again, it's Southern Utah. It's, in no offense to Southern Utah, it's as if those guys are going up against 4th and 5th string guys. And so we'll see when those guys get their chances going forward. But there were some positives out of some of those guys. The big thing I'm really interested to see is just if they end up moving Teo Johnson to cornerback, like Kyle was alluding to last night, depending on how bad Johnson's injury is, how well Nate Ritchie can actually be able to jump right into the free safety spot and get going on that, because I know he was knocking his mission rust off last year, but there were plenty of times where I was kind of concerned about like the different kind of angles that he would take. Like you look back at that long run against USC, and he's had a year to be able to knock off that rust and work out those kinks and get back to what everybody knew him as. And so if he can show that stepping in, most likely pretty much as a starter soon here, that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I'm very curious also. When a coach says, hey, starter went down a corner, we might move another guy who just converted to safety back. It's not really It's not necessarily a vote of confidence in the depth of the cornerback position, but they will figure it out at the University of Utah like they always do.
Always do.
You got your best safety from last year's playing running back, second best safety from last year's playing running back in the NFL now. So it's not like the athletes aren't there. We'll see how it plays out. All right, we'll have you on next week to talk some Baylor. All right.
Sounds good, buddy. I appreciate you guys.
All right, Alex, appreciate you. That's Alex Markham, Utes Insider at Rivals. A quick reminder to all of you, FightCon is coming to town. That's October 5th. FightCon will be a conglomeration of all the combat sports that you've become familiar with. MMA, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, all of it under one roof. So if you're a fight fan, if you're a competitor, if you're a coach, there's something for everybody there. There's going to be 90 booths directed towards fans of combat sports. There's going to be exclusive gear. There's going to be special guests and workshops. There's going to be a lot of fun for the entire family. Make sure you get down there, fightcon.com, for all of the tickets. They're on sale now. By the way, October 5th is a bye week for the University of Utah. So you're not going to have to miss a game. You're not even going to have to miss watching a game. They timed this thing perfectly. You're going to be looking for something to do on October 5th before you head downtown for the UFC event. Boom. FightCon is your answer. All right, it's Friday with 1:30 coming up, and you know what that means. The airing of grievances. We're going to send you into your weekend with a clear conscience, with a clear mind. You're going to get whatever angst, whatever worry, whatever issue is off your chest. You can air your complaints here. Give us your grievances. Unload your whole life onto this airwave, and then you'll head into Saturday, Friday night, feeling better. It's the Sean O'Connell Show with the airing of grievances next on ESPN 700.
10 seconds on the play clock as they break the huddle now. Pledger stays in the ball game. Rising goes under center. 3 on the play clock for Rising. Cam turns and gives it TJ Pledger to the outside. 25, 20, 15. Hurdles a man at the 10 and down to the Arizona State 8-yard line goes TJ Pledger. It's 1st and goal, Utah. Markham made the touchdown-saving tackle on TJ Pledger.
And TJ, well, the clock keeps running here, but just a great effort play here. You want to try to stay in bounds, and almost leaped it. But it's that run that I was saying. They're so aggressive that if someone misses, you're gonna pop a big run here.
Inside of 3 to play, 1st and goal from the 7-yard line. Rising under center. Pledger the back of the backfield. Cam Rising turns and gives it to Pledger. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, touchdown! TJ Pledger in the end zone for 6. 2:39 to play, and Utah leads it 34-21.
You know, Utah early on in the season was not a good second half team, and it's almost like they're better in the second half. That youthful enthusiasm kind of gets calmed down at halftime, and they come out and just play lights out in the second half.
Jordan Noy's PAT is up, and it's good. 2:39 to play, and Utah has scored 28 unanswered here in the second half. 12 plays, 82 yards, 6 minutes, 58 seconds off the game clock. And TJ Pledger from 7 yards out makes it Utah 35 and ASU 21. DJ Taylor, Brian Thompson back deep to receive the Jordan Noyes kick, which is end over end, but it's returnable and short. Taylor takes it at the 2-yard line. DJ Taylor up the field, flag flies. He gets to the outside 25-30, 35-40, 45 and out of bounds at midfield, but I think this one's coming back. There's 2 flags on the field, and both likely to go against Arizona State here at the 16-yard line.
Yeah, they're in a pile there together.
Yep, it's going to be a block in the back on ASU. This one's coming back. 93-yard field, making a 92-yard field for Jaden Daniels in the shotgun at his own 2-yard line. Ngata with him in the backfield. Daniels is going to pass. Pressure coming up the middle. He dumps it off to Ngata. He's got it at about the 6-7 yard line. Out to the 10 he goes. That'll be a 2-yard gain, and that's it. Clock continues to run here. 2:17, 2:16. ASU's only got 2 timeouts left.
Well, and ASU is a team that's not going to throw the ball down the field. You just keep it in front of you and let the clock run down. 2nd down and 8. Daniels will pass again. Stepping up away from the pressure. He's going to run now. Jaden Daniels to the outside. He's got the 25. Jaden Daniels out of bounds, and a flag flies in behind the play at the 20-yard line. Daniels picked up 20 yards on the run, but this one might be coming back too. It is. They're going to get the wide receiver Curtis Hodges on a hold here. So bring it back again with 1:57 to play. You know, holding is being lazy. It really is. I mean, in a lot of situations, it's just people not moving their feet.
13 penalties for 115 yards on ASU. They've been their own worst enemy in that department, as they have all year long. So 2nd down all the way back at the 10-yard line again. 1:57 to play. Daniels in the gun. He'll backpedal. Pressure off the edge. They're coming after him. He's going to run it again. Jaden Daniels to the 20, and up the sideline he goes. And then he steps out of bounds at about the 35-yard line. That's a gain of 25 yards. And about 9 seconds come off the game clock there. They lose contain on him, and he makes a big play.
And really keep everything in front of you. I don't know why you need to blitz in this situation. I just don't. You just keep it all in front of you.
14 here. From the 35-yard line, 1st and 10 with 1:48 to play now.
It's that time on a Friday, the airing of grievances on the Sean O'Connell Show, 877-353-0700. I imagine Utah's win last night probably left most of you feeling better about whatever grievances you had going into a Thursday night. But if you're anything like me, there's still some grievance you want to get off your chest. 877-353-0700. To air those grievances, you can also tweet at me at RealOCSports, at OC Show 801, at ESPN 700. You can, send a telegram to James Peterson in the studio. We will air your grievances.
Carrier pigeon, also acceptable.
However you get them to us.
Might not get here today, but we can save it for another week if you use it one of those ways.
Guess what? We'll be airing grievances next Friday on the show. That's just how things are going to work. All right. I'm going to start with an airing of grievances against crosswalks.
Oh.
Now, the existence of a crosswalk, wonderful thing. How long have people been crossing thoroughfares or streets or places that have high traffic coming in a perpendicular direction? How long has this been happening? At least since the Roman Empire.
Oh, yeah.
Further back than that.
Probably the Greek Empire. Probably Egypt.
You go all the way back
Sumerians, I don't know.
To ancient Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
All right, when the Assyrians were writing in cuneiform and they were doing crosswalks. Okay? When the aliens came down and painted the Nazca lines in the desert, those ancient peoples in South America had some form of a crosswalk. We know how long it takes to cross one way or another. We do. We know this.
We know even better now because most crosswalks have timers.
We've been to the
count
moon.
Down.
humankind has created artificial intelligence. Here's what you need to do with that Skynet scary artificial intelligence, okay? Apply it to crosswalks at particular intersections. There's nothing more obnoxious than a poorly timed crosswalk / red light. And especially when you're the one walking on the crosswalk and you're like, especially you got kids with you because they don't move quickly. It's like a 6-lane road and it's like green. The little man appears, right? Time to walk. And then immediately the hand with the numbers. 14, 13, 12. You're like, I'm two steps into the crosswalk. I got a 5-year-old. I'm carrying a baby. What's going on here? You got a 2.5-year-old that doesn't want to cross. It's like, I don't want to cross. Poorly timed crosswalks. I'm airing a grievance against you. Mankind should have figured out this algorithm a long, long time ago. For every intersection on the planet, we should have a perfectly timed crosswalk, and we don't. Not even here in downtown Salt Lake City. Although the one right near our Broadway studios
very good
is perhaps the best timed crosswalk on planet Earth.
You know, and I've been crossing that thing for going on 6, almost 7 years now. You know exactly when the other direction of traffic is red light. You know you are safe to walk out there until it's green on the other side. It's beautiful. West Temple and Broadway. I also have a crosswalk-related airing of grievance. Look at this. We did not plan this.
Okay. So the big crosswalk lobby is going to come after the show.
Mine's kind of two-part. It's both directions. It's for drivers around crosswalks and pedestrians on crosswalks.
Oh boy.
And of course, the caveat is what you talked about. If you've got kids or another reason why you have to move a little slower, this does not apply to you. But we'll start with the drivers. The whole creeping up on you because I really need to turn left right now. Dangerous, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, I can't imagine, like, you're talking about a situation where you've got your kids crossing the street, how scary that is as a parent, and for the tiny children who are just trying to cross the street. Stop creeping up on crosswalks. Use your peripheral vision and see, oh, someone's crossing. I'm going to have to wait for cars to pass and this person to pass, and then go. That's my first airing of grievance. Second one is pedestrians' side. Most crosswalks, as you said, and as I mentioned, count down. If there's less than 5 seconds left, stay on the sidewalk.
Yep.
What are you doing? Or if you're not going to stay on the sidewalk, you better be sprinting across the street.
That's the on-foot equivalent of hitting the gas when you see the yellow light at the intersection. You got less than 5 seconds on the crosswalk and you're still going, you're a bad driver.
Or you better be speeding, right? Like you better be zipping across that crosswalk. If you're just moseying across, which is most of the people who decide to step out in the middle of the street right before the green light's going to happen and they're going to be in the way of ongoing traffic, just stop it. It's for your safety and ours. By the way,
we got someone weighing in on the text line agreeing with your grievance.
Absolutely.
Here.
I love it. Also, by the way, if you get hit, it's the driver that goes to prison. So keep that in mind too.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, moving on. Sorry, I got a little heated with that one.
All right. I see why you needed to get that
I
grievance.
needed to get that off my
your chest. This is a fun one coming in from 1029 on the text line. 877-353-0700 if you want to weigh in. Grievance. Hey, Costco, when I order a whole pizza, stop giving slices to 20 people with order numbers after mine. Just give me my damn pizza. When you see an equivalent number of slices to create a whole pie go out, I could see why you'd be like, you could have just given me that pie instead of piecing it one by one. The margins are probably higher on a single piece, okay? So they might give priority to single-piece orders. I don't know. Also, I'm not sure if those were pepperoni slices and you ordered a plain cheese, or vice versa. We don't know that. But if indeed those individual slice orders match the pie that you yourself ordered, I will echo that grievance. Although, you know what? Costco doesn't do wrong very often.
No, I will say the last time got lunch at Costco and did the cardinal sin of going to Costco on a Saturday. Did middle of the day when it's packed and lunchtime. It took forever for my wife and I's order to come out, and a couple of the same order, just like this person said, came out before, and at least one of them, no one came up to grab it. And so after we left, we were like, we should have just grabbed that one and got ours. Life hack.
You were going to steal?
We weren't going.
You were going
we
to.
Didn't.
You were going. Grievance against you, James.
Is that a 15-yarder, 10-yarder, 5-yard?
10-yard penalty on James for actual crime.
It took like 20 minutes, and they called their name. Well, it probably didn't take 20 minutes, but it felt like 20 minutes, and they called the number like 5 times.
All right. Here's a grievance I want to air. An airing a grievance of this collection of 3 young ladies who probably somewhere in their 30s were sitting downtown as I rode my bicycle on the way to work today. I'm riding the family bike today, the Rad Power Bike, James, okay? This is the minivan of bikes. I don't look all that cool sitting on this thing, all right? But I'm going to air a grievance against the 3 women who were sitting outside enjoying some coffee or something on my way in, who looked at me and unabashedly, all 3 of them just laughed, open mouth, as I'm riding by, holding on, in the summertime when the weather is fine. I'm just like enjoying a cruise through downtown. And these 3 women who are like sitting outside of their place of business, clearly on a break from their workday, looked at me and were just like, I'm like, what? I'm just riding a bike here.
But what did you look like, though, to be fair?
I mean, I don't look cool.
Was it funny?
I don't look cool. I'm wearing shorts, and they ride up really high when you're sitting on the bike seat and you're pedaling, so there's a lot of pasty man thigh.
Did you tell them that you're an MMA champion?
No, of course. I just pretended I didn't notice their laughter at my expense and just went on past, trundled on past on my giant oversized bike that is so big, by the way. The plan was I was going to just bring it into the studio and park it here while I did the show, because these e-bikes, I don't know if you're aware, James, they're expensive. And I was like, it's fine. I'll just wheel it into the elevator and then take it up to the second floor with me and wheel it into the studio. Can't fit in the elevator.
Oh, man.
It's too big.
I was going to say, is it like the Spin or formerly Bird scooters that beep if you take them someplace they're not supposed to go?
Way too big. Yeah. Way too big. So, yes, I look a little bit silly on the equivalent of your mom's station wagon, but a bicycle version. Still very rude of you to just open mouth laugh at me.
Laugh quieter, okay?
It's messed up.
Laugh behind my back like a civilized person.
I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's the courteous thing to do after I go past. Wait, like 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, and then just be like, did you see how stupid that guy
Act like
looked?
you're rushing the quarterback in flag football.
One of them made eye contact with me and laughed into my face as I drove past. It's messed up. Grievance aired. All right, airing of grievances here on the text line from 3869. Grievance, why do folks do 97 miles an hour in the left lane? Middle lane is semis passing other semis, and at 47 miles an hour, and who knows what's happening in the right lane. So your grievance is just with interstate traffic in general. Too fast in the left lane, semi-trucks in the middle lane, but you're not going all the way over to the right. Okay, grievance. For sure. Driving on the interstate is either you don't even think about it. It's like the interstate is the offensive line. When everything's going fine, doesn't even enter your mind. Yeah. You're just like, oh, okay. Yeah, I got here. It took me 45 minutes to get here. Whatever. If anything's going bad on the interstate, it is the end of the world, just like an offensive line. You're like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened.
We have a tweet airing of grievance
Okay.
Fan ingress into Rice-Eccles Stadium at the northeast entrance / gate last night. Amateur hour. That's from Daniel Olson. Shout out to Daniel Olson.
Hey, I will air a grievance echoing that exact sentiment. So there were just random fences, temporary fences put up outside of Rice-Eccles Stadium last night for the game that have never been there before, ever. They were blocking off entrances and trying to funnel foot traffic to certain spaces. Why? We know how to get into Rice-Eccles Stadium. We've done it dozens and dozens of times. Hundreds if you're old enough. We know how it works. Whether you're driving your car and parking, you're walking from the track station, whatever. We know how to get in. Even on the west side, it was like this. I was like, what's happening here? Why do we have all of these random temporary fences going up? 7680 coming in. Grievance versus OC in defense of those women who laughed at him. I've seen him ride a bike. They were justified. Okay, wow. Okay.
Grieve against you too, man.
There's how many now we're attacking the way I ride bikes?
I can't even pronounce grievances when I yell it like that. Grievances against you.
I don't like that. I have to echo this one. I have received many serious and vitriolic complaints about last night's television broadcast crew. I tried to be nice about this when Richard Cross was kind enough to give us time on the show. It was like, hey, man, you just got to make sure you get the pronunciations right. I got a lot of feedback after the game. I got a text from one of my lifelong friends, one of my greatest friends in the world, just now on my personal phone, a number that all of you wish you could have, I'm sure, said my grievance is with the broadcast crew last night, especially the color commentary.
Well, okay, then then our guy Richard Cross didn't do an awful job then.
It was
his partner that was the biggest problem.
Here's the thing. The play-by-play man can only control how much research he does. He can't force his broadcast partner to do justice to figuring out that the University of Utah. Last night they said on the broadcast that this is Utah's first foray into Power 5 football. This season. Like all the Pac-12 years didn't happen.
Yikes.
Talked about how in the Big 12, Utah's going to face some physical fronts and physical teams, and are they going to be comfortable playing a physical brand of football?
Ugh.
You can do 5 minutes of homework on Utah football anywhere in the country, and someone will tell you, like, oh, yeah, they're a pretty tough team. Even folks who hate Utah football down in Provo would be like, yeah, this is how they play. But their fan bases,
they're not going to get out toughened. Yeah.
It's
actually usually the other way around. The opponents usually feel like they get out physical.
I just don't get it.
Yeah.
These are dream jobs, okay? They really, really are.
Even ESPN Plus, which feels like towards the bottom of the totem pole of ESPN broadcasting, that's still a dream job.
I've campaigned for this for many years. I will take the lowest level FCS job in play-by-play broadcasting or color analyst work on a college football game because it's my first love in sports. I will do it probably for free.
So fun.
And you're on an ESPN affiliate or you're on ESPN. Or look, Tim Brando, when he would come here and call Utah games, hearing him trying to pronounce Pita Talmoipenu was the most serious secondhand embarrassment I've ever had in my life. Like, this is your job. This is your only job. You're not also bagging groceries at the store, Tim Brando. This is what you do. You can get these things right.
Well, and if you're a TV guy, you're letting the pictures mostly tell the story too. You don't even have to talk the whole time.
That's right. And you have every resource available to you. Our guy Bill Riley, it took a lot of work and homework for him to be as good as he is at pronouncing certain names. And it's not just Utah names that he gets.
No.
It's the opponents.
Well, and when he was the voice of RSL for 18 years, he was getting the Spanish names, he's sounding like he spoke Spanish. Dude doesn't speak a lick of Spanish.
And guess
Alonzo
what?
can tell you.
He's a professional, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So a grievance, I will echo the grievance. I appreciate Richard Cross joining us. I know that the names can be a mouthful sometimes. I think on the show, at least, he did a good job with what we asked him to do. In the game, we'll see. Whatever. We'll go back and watch it and see. But a grievance against the individuals who won't put in the homework, but more importantly, the networks who still give them the gigs if they're not going to take it seriously. That drives me nuts.
More in general than specifically at our guy Richard Cross, who was nice enough to join us the other day. And because neither of us I didn't watch it with the sound on last night, so I didn't hear the commentary. You haven't sat down and watched it yet, so we can't completely judge it ourselves. But we've seen.
It's why we've
seen other things.
It's why I was careful to distinguish that the grievance was being aired against the color commentator last night.
And the color commentator. But we've both seen in general guys who just haven't seemed to put in enough of the homework, as you said. And it's not just Utah that gets this treatment, Utah fans. It's just about any team in the country, right? That's on national TV, except for maybe Alabama and maybe Ohio State. It's just the lack of preparation really sticks out when you don't put it in.
9765 on the text line. I have a grievance to all the people who say they won't watch the new Secret Lives of Mormon Wives on Hulu next week because they think it's so bad. They know damn well they'll watch and judge the people on the show. Yeah, I mean, that's what reality television is. That's what trash television is. And every single one of us in this state is at least going to check that show out. And yes, it will be a terrible train wreck. We have another Costco grievance.
Costco getting dragged more than crosswalks are today.
Grievance against if you see someone you know at Costco, don't stand in the middle of the aisle with your cart broadside. Yeah, you're right. You should not block up foot traffic at Costco, especially on one of those Saturdays where James is trying to eat lunch.
And what about my lunch, people? Come on. And everyone else's too, but mine importantly.
Someone just aired a grievance against me because I called out Tim Brando. Tim Brando is a legend. Mr. College Football. You're right. So get the names right. Do the research. Guy makes like $1 million to do these games. Now when Tim comes on the show, because he's calling a Utah game at some point in the year, or he's doing something, I'm gonna have to bring that up, or else I sound like a coward. I just put myself in a really bad spot. All right, keep them coming in. 877-353-0700 on the Dish Pros text line if you want to air your grievances before you head into the weekend. The Sean O'Connell Show wrapping up next on ESPN 700.
Daniels again backpedals. Utah's going to rush just 3 this time. Down the field they go. Broken up down the field. A beautiful play by Fabian Marks. Make it Kamoy Latu. The safety came over to make that play.
Yeah, nice play by Latu. But, time is your enemy right now. I mean, and you just he's got to pick that off. He's right there. But time is your enemy, and you just got to keep everything in front of you right now and just make them slowly move down the field.
Daniels 2nd and 10 from his own 45 with a minute 22 to play now in the ball game. 4 wide receiver look. Pressure coming on Daniels. He's going to step up and dump it off complete, but drop behind the line of scrimmage will be Trainum. That'll be a 4-yard loss and a timeout taken by Arizona State. They've got 1 remaining with a minute 13 to play and 3rd down and 15 coming up.
Yeah, and that's this 3-down look, and it's a different look that they haven't seen, and so it really makes it hard for ASU to dial into it. But another great tackle for loss with Devin Lloyd there.
So here's our situation, 3rd down and 15 for ASU, trailing 35-21 with a minute 13 to play from their own 40-yard line. Utah has scored 28 unanswered points here in the second half. They were down 21-7 at the half, and they have scored on 4 consecutive drives here in the second half, and they lead it by 14 points. The Utah defense has been just as good. After surrendering a bunch of yards in the first half, ASU has not scored here in the second half.
No, and Jaden Daniels is such a talent, and Utah has just done a tremendous job of containing him, and he was really happy to run early, but he got hit a lot, and it'll break your will after a while as a quarterback. You don't want to be hit. You want to be taking those shots.
Tavion Thomas in the ball game. Cam Rising in.
Final few minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show on a Friday. College football is back. Tonight you have a Big 12 game. Well, a game with a future Big 12 opponent at least. TCU is on the road at Stanford. That one will be sneaky interesting, I think. It's a late kick, little Big 12, Pac-12 after dark shaping up maybe in this first opening weekend of college football. TCU Stanford, 8:30 Mountain Time. We talked about a lot of the great games. Clemson, Georgia, that's going to be the big noon kickoff. That's 10 a.m. here in the Mountain Time Zone. Love how early these things get started. Penn State, West Virginia is an interesting game. Most teams, South Dakota State, Oklahoma State. Lee Sterling has that as an outright upset by the Jackrabbits. That would upset the apple cart for sure in the Big 12 Conference. You've got Miami against Florida. That's a fun one. Big games all over the place. Obviously, BYU, Southern Illinois, as the Cougars get started. That one's going to be a win for the Cougs. Looking forward to Kalani and his squad getting it done. And you'll find out, who the starting quarterback is at BYU.
Yeah.
Bohannon, by the way. Bohannon.
It ought to be, right? We also have we have 3 college football games this weekend on the station. Tomorrow we've got Miami versus Florida via Westwood 1. And then we have the Black College Football Hall of Fame Classic, Virginia State versus Benedictine on Sunday. And then Sunday night we have USC LSU. So tune into Utah's #1 sports stock for college football.
Are we all making a pact that we're still rooting aggressively against the Trojans? Is that a thing we're still doing in Salt Lake? I think it is. Stay tuned for the drive with Spence Checketts. He's at Wasatch Front Kia today. Go out, test drive a car. I drive a Kia, but today I'm driving a minivan bike, and people are laughing at me. We'll be back with you Monday, recapping an entire weekend of college football. You made it, people. The long, dark period of no football is over. NFL next weekend. We're going to have a blast. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700.